Thanks for tuning in to the OFN tonight. It's draft night 2026. It's finally here. This is what we look forward to every year as fan bases of losing teams. I know there's a lot of us out there. We love the offseason, don't we? Especially the draft. But even if you are a fan of a Super Bowl contender, this is a great time of year and it's awfully fun. And I'm really looking forward to it. I'm sure you are as well. This is the first time we're able to put this together here on the Ourlads Football Network. And we really appreciate everybody who is checking in with us. I know you have a lot of different options out there. I know many of you will not be watching live. You'll probably be checking us out on demand, looking for all sorts of ways to validate or maybe even help criticize a pick from your favorite team. Anyway, we're going to be here throughout the first round and tomorrow night, Friday night, for rounds 2 and 3 on day 2. We'll recap everything later on in the weekend. More than likely, we'll be taking a look at that around on Tuesday, on anywhere from Sunday to Tuesday. So we'll try to let you know as soon as we have information on that. Okay, so what we're going to do here in this setup as we're getting ready to kick off the draft coverage on the NFL Network, that's the tie-in. I'll be making sure that you can listen to every pick. Of course, we can't show you based on YouTube, but we're going to do our best to make sure that the production goes as well as possible. I have the odds for every pick. So hopefully they'll stay valid. There'll be something that we'll be able to work on throughout the draft. And you know what? This is as good as time as any for me to pop in because I have to pop this in now, right? As soon as because it's not going to really matter too much longer. And that is our final mock draft. That's right. After having an opportunity to listen to our top Ourlad scouts yesterday, getting even more and more information over the last few days since our Monday mock. This is it. This is officially my final mock of the 2026 mock draft season. So there's the top 16. And here are the top 32. All right. So these are the official. That's just official. That's it. We're not winning any contests. It's a crazy, crazy time. Well, actually, it's a crazy, crazy contest if you are trying to win, which you can do. Of course, the challenge at Ourlads, it looks like you're running out of time. It might even be over now since it's 8 o'clock officially Eastern time. But you could have won $500 on the Ourlads Mock Draft Challenge. That's every year. You could check it out. And, of course, check this out. Let me pop this out. Let me pop this away. So there we go. So we've got the Ourlads draft guide. Now, I know you're probably saying, well, the draft just started. Why do I need the draft guide? Well, because once the draft is over, then where are you going to get all the information? Where are you going to get all your awesome scouting reports? It's not going to pop on the Ourlads depth charts until, I don't even know, actually, probably right around when the season begins. So you're going to, and you know, maybe even longer. So you want to make sure you get these scouting reports in right after the draft, if that's the way that you have to do it. And if you want to be able to check out a draft guide now, if you want all the scouting information during the draft for tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday, then check out the PDF version. We have links in the description of this video, PDF version, as well as the hard copy. I would do both personally. If you're as big a fan of the NFL draft as I am, and you love football and you love scouting players, there is no better source for that information than right here at Ourlads. All right. So let me see. Wow, they're just eliminating these picks already. I'm noticing on this board here. It's good that I have some. It's good that I saved them all. Let me see where I'm going to have to keep, of course, checking out where the draft is at this point. Looks like they're getting ready soon to make the pick. I'm not going to go over all the nonsense stuff. And you know what? There might be sometimes or, you know, I missed an audio play, a pick, but I'm sure if you're watching this broadcast, you're probably also watching what's going on ESPN or the NFL Network. So let me go ahead and pop up. Let's see. So, for instance, let me see what they got going on over there audio-wise.
Cam Hayward. Take it away, Cam.
Pittsburgh, make some noise!
All right, so look, they've already taken out the top 2 picks as far as the odds are concerned.
But everything we do today is built on the standards set by the legends.
And that's okay because of the fact that, remember, we went over these picks and the odds, I think it was yesterday. Boy, time has really just gone by here. Anyway, so when we went over the odds, we told you that the first 3 picks, we didn't really feel that there was any value there whatsoever. But once you get to 4 right here, all right, see, they've already eliminated 3 even. So once we get to 4, I think this is where we can start thinking about some money. A lot of people are thinking about Jeremiah Love if he doesn't go to Arizona. Could be Tennessee, could be the Giants. Don't forget, as we talked about yesterday with Dave Syvertson, reminding everybody about the fact that if it's a top 5 draft pick, then that's a boatload of cash you're going to have to dish out for the running back position, and not a lot of teams want to do that. So we'll see what happens there. And here has, of course, been my pick. This was my pick when we did the draft. What was it, last week? I think it was. I think Sonny Styles at that point was about 5-1. Remember when we did the show? And now he's going down as one of the favorites. So we'll see what happens there. My top long shot play here is Ruben Bain, who is now at 30-1. So I think he would be the best long shot here, considering the obvious pass rusher. Look, you got David Bailey at 3-1 and Ruben Bain at 30-1. And they're both like this close as far as talent as an edge rusher. So what happens if Bailey goes to Arizona and Arizona decides not to draft Jeremiah Love, of course, with Bailey going to Arizona? So then you're looking at a situation where this is now getting interesting, where you are. So basically what I'm thinking is you can replace David Bailey at 3-1 with Bain at 30-1. That's my point. So you're getting a much, much bigger value there. In other words, if Tennessee was hell-bent on drafting an edge rusher, okay, which we know that is definitely possible, and they think it's possible too because they have Bailey at 3-1. He's the top edge rusher here on the board. Okay, but what if that's because they know what they're going to do? Okay, they know they've got the 3rd pick. Okay, there's only so many different variables that could take place. So if they are hell-bent on going edge rusher, that's it. We're going edge. These guys, we like Bailey, but we're not concerned with Bain's arm length. We're going edge. And Bailey's gone, then why wouldn't they think Bain? So we'll see. Again, I still like Styles. The point is as we go through this, there's a lot of value in these plays, and we're going to try to see if we could take a stab out of the best value in the draft. Okay, what's going on here?
There's the thing that stood out to me the most was just the toughness. You say football players are tough, but then you see some guys, and it just looks different.
So see, the Raiders are milking this up. There's 7 minutes to go. The clock is started in a minute.
The stuff you see late in key moments of games.
They still have not made the pick. So they're going to, I don't know. Give us a time. How long do you think they're going to milk this for? Because they're not waiting for a phone call. So what do you think they're milking? How long? They're going to milk it for the entire 8 minutes? What do you think? Halfway through? You think they're going to do it now? All right. So I'm going to say 3-minute mark. That would be 3 minutes from now. All right, that's my guess. All right, so let's now take a look at the Las Vegas Raiders depth chart, okay? Because this is the only time we're going to be talking about the Raiders, except if they make a deal to move back into the draft. And what else do they have to do? Well, I think one of the things that to me really sticks out more than anything is they got to take care of defense in this draft. They really do. So, look, Max Crosby, we know how good he is, but he's still coming off an injury. And we talked about Kwity Paye, even though he's a solid player, if he had lived up to the player that the Colts had envisioned when they drafted him, he'd still be on the Colts. But he's still a solid player, but he's not a number 2 edge rusher. Right now, I think he's just an overall solid player. I think I'd put him at, like, on a good defense, I'd put him at number 3 edge rusher, and just, a really a really solid overall player that's just a part of your defense. That's it. At this, look, he's on a different team for the first time in his career. So he's with a different scheme, he's with a different coach. Anything is possible as far as that is concerned. So we'll see where we get the uptick there. Okay, 5 minutes to go on the pick. Let's see. Let me also point out that the Raiders' additional needs, I think they're going to need a 3-4-5 tech. So I think a 5 tech. I don't think that this situation here, Thomas Booker, Hemingway now this is the thing we don't know. Remember, Spy Tech was the GM last year for the Raiders. So he made this pick. So that's the thing you got to keep in mind, that yes, it's a different coaching staff and all that, but they have a general manager that made these picks, and therefore, if you like them for a reason, I'm sure that when they had these interviews, when they had the interview with Kubiak to come in, you would think that there would be some simpatico with the vision of what they're trying to do here. Now, again, I know things are different on the defensive side of the ball. It's not what Kubiak is, but still, the bottom line is you're running a 3-4. You need some more talent up here. No, I think Peegs is intriguing, where I think he could definitely turn out to be, a pretty good player at nose. And we're down to 345, by the way. And so I don't think you have to worry about nose. I wouldn't worry about that. Right? I mean, look, again, this was a draft pick too from last year. But they have to add one more 3 tech. How early will they add that? We'll find out. Let's see. The Raiders have the 36th pick. So we'll be talking about them early again tomorrow, unless they trade up. It says now the pick is in right at around the 3-minute mark. How about that? I almost hit it. I think it was right there, wasn't it? It was right about 3:15, something like that. All right. And they're all clapping. I can't show you the clapping, but you can see it on the screen somewhere, right? You see the clapping. You were impressed with the clapping, the whole draft clapping deal. I mean, they're clapping. Look at this. They're all hugging each other, and it's like, guys, you've known about this for months, and it's silly. Okay. Well, here we go. Picks coming in here soon. I'll try not to miss the picks when they do get called out. Also for the Raiders, okay, for the defensive side, they have to get a couple of players in the secondary. That's going to be really important. All right, Stokes had a big breakout year last year, but they did bring in Taron Johnson. But they've got to do something about free safety and adding another corner to the mix. All right, let's get this show on the road.
Expect a new quarterback.
With the first pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Fernando Mendoza, quarterback, Indiana.
And the celebration time in the Mendoza household party.
There you go. All right, so it's officially in the books. Where are we here on the... Okay, we've got number 5 pick now. So the 4th pick has been taken down as far as the wagering. And we're getting ready for the Jets pick here. I might don my Jets polo tomorrow. I was going to do it tonight because it's a big night for Jet fans, of course. It's always a big night in April for Jet fans, unfortunately, with 2 picks. But I decided, it's the first round. This is when we're really professional. But tomorrow I might wear it. First pick tomorrow. I'm excited about that. Never been in that situation before. My entire life, never did I ever recall having the first pick of the next day. It might have happened. I just don't recall it. Watch, it probably happened like 4 years ago. Okay, so the Jets are coming up here. Once again, just to put a bow tie on the Raiders before we move over. Where is it? There it is. So once again, the secondary, take a look at the secondary for the Raiders. They got to add a few more pieces here for sure, because Porter was one of their draft picks, and he still has a way to go. Yeah, they've got some business to do in the secondary. Absolutely. Safety and corner. So we could see a safety or a corner. Matter of fact, I think I'd probably lean towards safety corner with their top pick in round 2. It's probably what I would do, because this needs help. Unless because there will be some good 3-4 guys here. The Peter Woods of the world, the Carl Banks of the world. There'll be some good 5-tech defensive linemen available, or even players like Woods that can play a multitude of positions up front. It's time to talk about the Jets. All this talk about Reese or Bailey. Well, we did a draft with Shane Hallam of DraftSharks.com. I did that one last week, and Shane actually went with Bailey. I went with Reese, and so there were a lot of people who have been siding towards. By the way, there's only 3 minutes and 20 seconds left for the Jets. So there are a lot of people sliding towards the Jets taking Bailey, but I'm holding firm. It's going to be Reese. But again, I've said this all along. I trust the administration. I really like what Darren Muji has done. We're looking now. It's obvious that Aaron Glenn is now talking to whoever it is that they drafted on the phone. And I just think it's going to be Reese. But whoever it is, I trust that Darren Muji will get the right guy. It's all you can do as a fan. You trust or you don't trust. I trust. And I'll be okay no matter which way it goes. But I think at this point, it's pretty much 50-50 between Bailey and Reese. Because all you have to do also is take a look at the Ourlads draft. And we talked about that yesterday with Dave Syvertson and with John Cooper. And Ourlads has David Bailey going to the New York Jets. Again, the pure best pass rusher in the draft. Reese is not a pure pass rusher. He has a lot to like. There's no doubt about it. There's an awful lot to like about Arvell Reese. And he's a very versatile player, but you take a look at Bailey, and if the goal for the Jets is we've got to get as much pass rush as possible. See, here's the other thing that I'm a little bit concerned with. If they go with Bailey, is they have Will McDonald, and Will McDonald is really, it's all about pass rush with Will McDonald. He's really at this stage of his career. Unfortunately, I would have liked a little bit more, because especially where he was drafted, I think 15th overall. You don't want a situational pass rusher at 15. That you should get at 30. You want a more all-around type player. But right now, Will McDonald, it's looking like he is more situational pass rusher. And Bailey kind of looks like that. Now, he's a better run defender. Don't get me wrong. But that would be a little bit concerned, but minuscule. And then the Jets have the 16th pick of the first round. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Here is pick number 2.
That will tumble the minute we hear this name. We are about to get it from the commissioner. The Jets' second overall pick of this draft is...
With the second pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select David Bailey, linebacker, Texas Tech.
So they do take David Bailey out of Texas
Ourlads
Tech, second
won.
overall. So much for that top 30 visit being canceled. They probably knew this was going to be the newest New York.
Okay, David Bailey.
Well, they want guys who can get off the ball quick and do it in a hurry. Darren Muji came from the Denver Broncos. When you look at their edge rushers, Nick Bonito was 5th in the league in fastest get off.
All right, I'm not going to continue to play all this because that would be unfair. Because I can't play all this all day long, or else, why check us out? But anyway, there you go. I'll listen to what they have to say myself later on. And David Bailey goes to the New York Jets. So, look, as I said, best edge rusher in the class. And I think if you're looking at the good side of why you're okay with Bailey over Reese, if you're a Jet fan, because like I said, you got to trust the GM, is that with Reese, there are some people who do believe that when you get a player that can do a lot of really good things, and that's what makes Reese a very special player. He can do a lot of really good things. Can he really do what you believe you need him to do? And that is become an edge rusher, become more of a pass rusher, not an edge rusher, but a pass rusher. And the Jets need pass rushing. And that's why all along, whenever I've talked about Reese, that's what I've always said when I bring up his name and what I think that he should be looked at is that if you're going to take a player like that, you have to be looking at a player that could disrupt, which he can. Look, you don't have to have double-digit sack totals every year to be a disruptive force for your defense at the line of scrimmage. And that's what I think is going to be the high mark for Reese, is he's going to be one of these players that is going to be very disruptive, but he'll probably end up with 5 sacks and maybe a few picks, pressures, a few forced fumbles. He'll be covering some players. So there's a lot to like, but you also have to wonder, if you're a Jet fan looking at it this way, is it a luxury pick? Is a player like Arvell Reese considered almost like a luxury pick? Meaning a player that, again, is going to be able to do a lot of good for you. But if he's really not going to be elite in the NFL, because he is elite in college, but if he's not going to be elite in the NFL at several different aspects of his game and the way that he needs to perform for you on defense, then you might look at it as a luxury pick. That's all. Obviously, I'm nitpicking. But David Bailey, I think if you're a New York Jet fan, you're very excited because what this means is if you trust your GM, then you trust that they got themselves a hell of a pass rusher. And now you're going to line them up here, as you can see. You're going to line them up here with you got McDonald, you've got Osai. Keep in mind, you got Osai and Enagbare, who you brought in from free agency. Enagbare is really going to give you a little bit more of an all-around game. I think Osai, they're hoping for some more pass rushing ability. And then you've got Will McDonald, who's all pass rush. And now you bring in Bailey, who is really considerably more of a pass rusher. But in general, when we talk about David Bailey, just to go over some of the notes, I ain't going to be able to read them word for word, but just to go over some of the notes on David Bailey that really stick out in a positive way, is that you're still also looking at a guy. Now, this is not going to be a one-dimensional attack pass rusher. This is a guy over his career. He's had experience in coverage. So that's good. He has improved as a run defender. As I said before, it looks like he'll be a better run defender than McDonald. He has the tools that are considered elite that you want to coach up. Okay. So he's got work to do. You're talking about somebody who went to Stanford for a few years, was a part-time player, then goes to the portal. A lot of people were interested in him in the portal. Texas Tech gets him, probably gave him a lot of money. You know how Tech was shelling out money there. So Texas Tech ends up, Arizona's pick is in, by the way. Texas Tech ends up getting him, and he has a monster season. But look, he had also had a great combine. That definitely helped him as well. I think one of the things, though, I think that he's going to have to look. He doesn't have maybe the best size you're looking for. And that's a little bit, and also he probably needs a little bit more of a pass rush identity, as far as, there are some pass rushers that come in with an arsenal that you're comfortable with. Some have none. They're just a bull rusher. They got one or two. Bailey doesn't have, a full arsenal of pass rush moves. So that's something he's going to have to work out as well. What's really important, though, and I think this, as we segue to Arizona, he went to Stanford, as I said. If you go to Stanford, you should be an awfully smart person. Okay, now Arizona's here. Are they going to go with Love? Or are they going to stick with edge rusher? I mean, not stick with edge rusher, but now all of a sudden Reese is here. Let's see what they do.
In the 2026 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Jeremiah Love.
All right.
Running back, Notre Dame.
So the Cardinals go offense. And they
this was really
arguably
all this was about with Love was. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't turn on the
running back off the campus.
I didn't turn it. I'm getting mixed up here already. I've got the two monitors. I got my monitor and the big one, and I just put the volume on my little one. So anyway, I'm sure you heard it. So Jeremiah Love goes to the Cardinals, and again, the thing was with Love is, as we talked about yesterday, and I mentioned before,
well, this is a team last year that was equally bad and boring. They're going to be
selected in the top 5 of the draft. And so Arizona, they're going to have to pay big dollars for a running back in a few years. I mean, overall, as far as his career is concerned, and his time at Arizona. So, and you know what? Good for Arizona. Good for the fans, because this means that they don't care about that. And I love that. Okay. Because I have been critical. You've heard me on this show. I have been critical of the decisions that they have made at head coach, especially at offensive coordinator. So I really don't understand that direction they're going, but it's going to make LaFleur look a lot smarter when you put a monster running back like Jeremiah Love in the backfield. And so the fact that Arizona, that's why it's the only thing, because in my mock, it's Jeremiah Love 3, unless they decide that they're not going to pay. And I just felt Arizona, knowing their history, that they didn't want to pay a running back. So I was going to go ahead and say he's going to slip out of that top 5 area where it won't be an issue. But good for Arizona. Awesome for Arizona. I think the fans are going to party tonight. And I think this is great, too, to have players that are this awesome end up with programs like Arizona. That's what the NFL is all about. This is what we love about the NFL, because this is going to just invigorate the fan base. It doesn't matter what Arizona does the rest of the draft and the rest of the offseason. They are going to love this draft pick, and they are going to they're going to head to training camp in droves. The jerseys are going to sell out. They've got themselves the face of the franchise here before you know it. And if Marvin Harrison Jr. can turn the corner, and they got Trey McBride, let me go ahead and pop up instead of seeing this black deal here. Let me, because the next pick is going to come in here real soon. So, look, you got McBride, Harrison, and Jeremiah Love. That a boy, Tucker. Tucker's at work putting these players on the depth chart already. So you got Jeremiah Love, Trey McBride, and Marvin Harrison Jr. That's just like the Raiders. Okay, you got 2 franchises that are rebuilding, but the Raiders, they are in a similar situation now. They don't have that number 1 receiver yet, but they've got Linderbaum at center. They've got the quarterback Mendoza, and they have, of course, Gentry at running back. So now Arizona's got Love, McBride, Harrison. And we saw Michael Wilson do some really interesting things last year. He broke out, played really well. They still need a right tackle. We all know that. But we also know that they can get that right tackle later in the draft, which is why anybody that was picking right tackle for Arizona early, I just think they were way off base. Arizona has the 34th pick in the draft, the second pick tomorrow. Great, awesome. I said that for the third time. Awesome move by the Tennessee Titans, by the Arizona Cardinals. But the Tennessee Titans are next. And the Titans, so far, if you take a look at what's transpired, nothing really crazy. Okay, nothing crazy yet. Still on the board. Okay, still on the board, though, now is Arvell Reese. And we talked about Sonny Styles potentially going to Tennessee with Arvell Reese available. Is that now going to be something? Matter of fact, let me see where, because the pick is going to happen here soon. Where are they with the board? Let's see. Where are they with the first round? Top 5. They might be. Oh, yep. Yeah, they're already at 8. Yeah, we're not going to get anything here. I might as well just get rid of that. Okay. But I do have them all saved. So let me see if I can quickly. I think it's too late for me to check and see what. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to check and see. 1, 2, 3. Wait, 1, 2. Let me see. I'm just quickly doing this. See if I got this right. Oh, no, that's the 6th pick. This is pick 5. Here we go. Pick 4. They had Reese 3-1. Okay. So they still had Reese at a pretty good. Here we go. Picks coming up. I will get it right this time. And let me move this out of here because we're not going to need this over here anymore. I'll leave that open, though. All right. Here we go.
And 8 minutes per team. So the commissioners.
I'm going to stay with Styles, to tell you the truth, but I think Reese now. I think Reese might have bumped Styles. I'm hoping for Bane.
With the 4th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Carnell Tate.
Whoa!
Wide receiver, Ohio
Surprise! Surprise!
Of the night. Wow. Offense did rule the day in Tennessee. And the first Ohio State Buckeye to be named in this draft is Carnell Tate.
Okay, now this is what we talked about for the last couple of weeks here. We really ramped it up over the last few days. You even heard what Brett Veach said. This is going to be a volatile first round. There are a wave of different opinions all across the draft. I thought it was going to be a little bit. I thought it was going to start about 5 or 6. I didn't anticipate it was going to start at 4. 5 was the beginning, and that was a little high. But it starts at 4. They could have gone with Reese. Oh, this is Robert Sala's the head coach there. They could have started, but hey, Brian Daboll is the offensive coordinator. I wonder if that was part of his. Come here, be my offensive coordinator, and I'll make sure you get the first pick. I don't know, but wow, what was Tate? Let me see what his odds were. Tate, weren't that bad. 22-1. You just got paid 22-1 for Carnell Tate. Let's take a look at that depth chart. All right. So look, I really didn't. The reason why I felt that they wouldn't go receiver with their first pick, and I don't really agree with this pick, but I think it might have to do with I have to imagine they don't think Calvin Ridley has anything left in the tank. And maybe they don't believe in a Humanor as much as I thought they would. DK is also a nice draft pick, and they gave a boatload of money to Wan'Dale Robinson. So I figured, maybe they'll go and pick up a wide receiver a little bit later on. There'll still be some good receivers there. But they decided, because remember, when we graded Tate, we're grading Tate as a high-end 2, say. Not like, hey, he's a bona fide number 1. When he goes out there, he's going to have the best corner locked on him if it's man on man, and he's going to be the alpha of the wide receiver room. I guess he could still be on this unit. Carnell Tate could still be the alpha, yeah. But, I think Kaliki Umanor now is also in a position where he could end up in the next couple of years being a really good 1A, 1B to Tate. So, look, first of all, let's just put this out of the way. This is a excellent player that Tennessee just added to their team. Okay, you've got a young quarterback in Cam Ward. You want to develop him. And the best way to develop your young rookie quarterback from last year in year 2 is to provide him with better weapons, especially reliable weapons, keeping in mind Carnell Tate does not drop passes. He's also a very good route runner. There is a lot to like about Carnell. He's a very steady player that it will be a perfect receiver for Cam to trust. And even as a rookie, I just look at this defense and I'm like, man, you got some work to do. But, they also probably thought in their room that Tate was the best player on their board. They had to have. But look, it's about Cam Ward. That's what it's about. And why not let it be about Cam Ward? If you're Robert Saleh, look, I'm a really good defensive coordinator. I'll figure it out. Let me figure it out. Okay? I don't need to have – I'd rather – if we're going to have a one-sided locker room, a one-sided depth chart, let it lean towards the offense. Because you hired me, or I hope Tennessee hired him, not because he's a leader of men and some sort of, top-tier head coach based on his resume so far, but he's a really good defensive coach, really good. And he motivates his players. He gets the best out of them. And anytime you see Robert Saleh, even with the Jets, say what you want about Ulbrich, but even with the Jets had a really good defense under Saleh. So they'll figure it out. Okay, let's just get our quarterback, our young quarterback. Let's get him weapons. Remember, he said he liked his backfield. Now, if Jeremiah Love was still there, that would be interesting to know. Now, of course, Robert Saleh, I told you I trusted my running backs. But if Jeremiah Love was still there, you do wonder because they went offense. And if they're trying to help Cam Ward, then the best way to help Cam Ward would have been to have Jeremiah Love in the backfield. But we'll never know the answer to that question. So right now, though, as far as we know, Robert Saleh loves his backfield, and now he's got his receivers. Now, does he trust Gunnar Helm to be the number one? Maybe. I mean, Bellinger's a fine tight end. They could definitely use another tight end in the mix at some point. But yeah, look, offensively, on the offensive line, they also have to find Dan Moore's replacement at left tackle. They've got to find another center and a guard. They've got a lot of work to do on the offensive line. But they weren't going to do that here. Just like we said with Arizona, there's no way, no region in the world that you're going to – it's too early for an offensive lineman. At least that's what I think. We'll see. Giants have a need for an offensive lineman. Guard, you can get that with Iwana at 10 if you want to go that way. Cleveland definitely is interested in an offensive tackle, but will they wait until later in the first round? They can. They'll still get a pretty decent one. They can get a player like Blake Miller late in the first round. Why wouldn't that be okay? But the defensive players are dropping. How about that? That's awesome. All right. So I got to keep these. Yeah, let me see. I should probably pop up. Let's see. Let me pop up. I got to get like a chart here. The pick is in for the Giants. So let's move along to the Giants. So what are they going to do? Delane is, I still think Delane would be a nice pick for the Giants, but all of a sudden you have now the two Tennessee players. But do you go with Arvell Reese? I think now, since Reese is available, you go Arvell Reese or Delane. That's the way I would go. We'll see what the Giants do. Jordan Tyson, of course, is also a big story lately.
Taps one of the NFL's salute to service.
And his stock has gone up considerably in the markets. So what do you think? Jordan Tyson, Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, Mansour Delane. Let's see if the Giants stick to defense once again. Offense, though. That's been the
Fatal injuries while deployed in the
That's been the way that things have gone in this draft so far. 3 of the first 4 offense.
Major Volkey was raised.
Okay. Still doing a little thing here. A little nice little story. Here comes the pick.
With the 5th overall pick of the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Football Giants select Arvell Reese, linebacker from the Ohio State University.
So Arvell Reese does go off the board, but it's 5th overall.
Okay, so yes, Reese made an awful lot of sense. You go with Reese. He wasn't supposed to be there. All this talk about Jeremiah Love and Jordan Tyson, and I even thought Mansour Delane would be a good pick. But even with even with Tate on the board, you thought, wow, there are some really good options here that weren't there before. But Tate comes off the board, and all of a sudden now you have not just Sonny Styles, but you also have the player that the Giants picked, Arvell Reese, could have gone to the New York Jets. So he stays in New York, doesn't go to the Jets, goes to the Giants. And let's take a look at the Giants and their defense right now. As you can see here, he's one of those players, again, as we just talked about. He's a disruptor. And he's going to do a lot of good for the New York Giants. Outstanding length. He's got great size, length, physicality, really good instincts. That's what you're looking for. Range. He's got to do a little bit better in coverage, but that's okay. And as a pass rusher, you're not going to be able to, that's why, the reason why I think the Jets went Bailey, because he still has work as a pass rusher, and he's going to be somebody that is just going to be very good at a lot of things, as I mentioned. Matter of fact, there was a Big Ten offensive coach who said they asked him to do a ton, and he's elite at everything they asked him to do. This guy is an alien, and he's clearly very smart because he's doing so much for them. I think he's incredible. So a player that's going to be versatile, is going to line up all over the place, and he is going to be a big part of the future of this Giant defense. And this is like the first value pick of the draft. I don't think let me see what the odds were. Let me see. Where are we? That was pick 5. Let's see. Let me see where pick 5 was for the Giants. There we go. Reese was 10-1. So again, you're getting good odds on these picks. All right, so that's the Giants. We'll talk about them in a few minutes. Next up, the Cleveland Browns. So the Browns take the first offensive lineman. They got to go offense. No question about it. The Browns have to go offense. I think offensive. Look, Tate's off the board, and he was definitely under consideration. You have to look at, when will Jordan Tyson go? How far will Jordan Tyson slip? Remember, 3 separate injuries for Jordan Tyson. 3. Okay, so that is, it's like 3 in 3 years, I think it was. So that's something that is either going to be everybody's talking about the same thing with several other defensive players. McCoy, Terrell, Allen, how far will they drop because of some potential injury concerns that they still may have to deal with? But Tyson right now looks like a clean bill of health. Now he's 100% healthy. But can he stay that way? Oh, we've got a trade. Our first trade. Okay, so Kansas City gives up 3rd and 5th, and they swap. What does this mean for the Chiefs? Okay, well, it could mean, Sonny Styles, that's a possibility. Did they feel that Styles wasn't going to be on the board? Taking a look at the Kansas City Chiefs needs. Let me go ahead and pop them up. I'm going to keep my eye on the ball here. Oh, the pick is in, of course. So I don't think it's offensive tackle. I don't think it could be corner. It could be Delane. It could be receiver. It could be Lemon or Tyson. It could be Bain.
For Delane, defensive back, LSU.
So out with Trent McDuffie for
So there you go.
the 29th overall pick that they own later on tonight.
So
He's now
Kansas
Los
City,
Angeles
Cleveland
Ram.
trade.
And in
So
comes
Cleveland
the
gets
highly
a
talented
3rd
corner out of
and a
LSU.
5th.
Yeah, and this is
Excellent
something you
move
might
by
want to get used
Cleveland.
to.
Love
In
it.
2022, the Chiefs selected 5 defensive backs when they had some holes to fill. This was clearly the top
I think
guy,
this is a great
especially
trade for
because
the
there's
Cleveland
some uncertainty
Browns.
around Jermon
And
McCoy's
any
knee. I
time
think
in this
because of
draft
they felt the need
that
they
you
needed to
can
get
trade
him. And when you
down
look at
and get
why they
extra
made the trade, the
collateral,
Commanders
you are hitting a home run. So I think it was a great trade for Cleveland. And again, now Kansas City makes sure they get the number 1 corner in the draft. And look, they had needs, the Chiefs. I'm a little bit surprised that they gave a pretty good collateral there because they could use some more players. But hey, the Chiefs are also they're filled up of really good players, and they also have a 1st-round pick later on. So they did not have to give up that later 1st-round pick, and that's probably why they felt giving up a 3rd and a 5th in this draft with the 1st rounder they got made a lot of sense. Keeping in mind, of course, yes, the 2 corners are gone, Watson and McDuffie. And so with those guys gone, we're going to fill a need. Look, in the past, we have seen the Chiefs use later round draft picks on corners and safeties, but they wanted Delane. Good for them. The Chiefs wind up getting the top corner in this draft. And, of course, Kenneth Walker in the backfield. Again, let me see if I can pop up quickly because we will talk about the Chiefs a little bit later on. Taking a look at the defense. They need another edge rusher, and they could definitely get an edge rusher later on in the draft. And who knows? You know what they could do is they could trade down a little bit and later in the 1st round and maybe recoup a 3rd or a 5th. We'll keep an eye on that. But on defense, besides the pass rusher, they needed some more help in the secondary. And, of course, there's also a lot of talk. They've got to get another right tackle in there. And I don't know whether or not a wide receiver would also be really good. Add him to the mix, a Concepcion type. I'm sure they'd love it. But we'll talk more about Kansas City later on. Okay, so next up, look, so far, Giants and Cleveland. I really like what they've accomplished so far, and we're only through the first several picks. Next up, we have who's up next? Okay, Washington can go I think everybody believes defense is going to be the way that Washington is going to go in this draft. Because don't forget, we're most likely going to see a Brandon Ayuk sighting real soon there. So I think their wide receiver room will be fine. They definitely need to upgrade at left guard. And other than that, I don't think there's a whole lot of needs on offense. It's all about defense. So Reuben Bain is still available. I think that is a definite possibility. You've got Downs. He's also a big time possibility at safety. So those are two really good options there. And Sonny Styles, I guess, would also be a fit. I think, though, I'm still looking at Bain and Downs. I'm going to say that those are the two players that they're going to go with. So we'll see. Oh, they've got a couple of guys here to
selection. And the Browns are currently on the clock.
The Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year Award, presented by Nationwide.
Why did he say the Browns are on the
one
clock?
Player each year and celebrates their profound impact on and off the field. I'm joined on stage by former winners Lynn Swann and Jerome Bettis. And the league welcomed its newest member to the prestigious club 2 months ago, Super Bowl champion and six-time All-Pro Bobby Wagner. Way to go, Bobby. On behalf of the Payton family and Nationwide, I encourage players drafted.
Did Rich Eisen just say the Browns are on the clock after this? I thought I heard him say that. Aren't the Saints up next?
6 NFL Draft. The Washington Commanders select Sonny Styles, linebacker, Ohio
They did go
State.
with Styles. Wow.
So the third Buckeye in the first 7 is coming out of.
Yeah, I don't agree with that pick. Off-ball linebacker. You could have had a really good pass rusher in Bain. You could have had a big difference maker in the secondary in Downs. And instead, you go with an off-ball linebacker. Now, he's a solid player. You know, he's going to be a good player. I don't know about his instincts. And I don't really look at him as a playmaker. You know, I have my concerns as far as his ability to be a player that's warranted this high in the draft. I know he's, an elite tackler. You know, he's a former safety, so, you know, he's got that ability, and I'm sure that's probably what was impressive. He had an awesome combine, ran the hell out of it there. Really impressive there. I don't know also if he's the most physical guy in the world. He's got bloodlines, but I just don't like drafting off-ball linebackers personally. I don't care what draft it is. I don't like doing that when you have other options. Bain and Downs were legitimate stars as far as playmaking ability, like 2 of the top 5 or 10 in all of college football last year, or the last couple of years. Downs did it when they won a national championship in 2024. Bain did it when they nearly won a national championship in 2025. Sonny Styles was just a part of the team. He was a very good player among other very good players. But Sonny Styles played with Caleb Downs, of course, last year in the 2024 national championship. And Downs was just a more effective player. It was Downs. He was the man. So I do not agree with this pick. Next up is New Orleans. Let me see if I can pop up the Saints here. And look, Jordan Tyson. There's been a lot of talk that, as you can see here, Olave and then a couple of young, especially Tipton, a young kid. They need another receiver. There's no doubt about that. The question is will the Saints use a first-round draft pick on a wide receiver when they have big needs on defense? They need to get 2 edge rushers in this draft. And so right now you've got Reuben Bain available. And then also, if you take a look down here, they need another safety. Excuse me, not safety, corner. This is a big weakness right here. They must find another corner. Now, it's all over. Why do you think Kansas City moved up to get Delane? because they knew with McCoy's injury situation, he might not even get drafted in the first round. And the next, ranked cornerback prospect maybe is Colton Hood. He's not going to go until, I don't know, I guess he could go mid first round. That would be a little high, but he's probably in the 20s. That's why Kansas City said, we got to get the lane. And so New Orleans, if they're going to get another corner, well, you could just get him later on. You're not going to pick a corner here. So I think Bain would be huge. But hey, you know what? I'll give you a wild card. And this is going to be one of my wild card plays is Cassius Howell will go higher than expected. I don't know where, but I think he's going to go higher than expected. You also have on offense now, if that's the direction they go, you've got Lemon and you've got Sadiq and you have Tyson. Those are the three options that New Orleans would be looking at if they want to go offense. But it's the defense that really needs help. But look, they need help all over. They really do. But the offense has a little bit more because the offensive line has 4 out of 5 starters. They have a number 1 running back. They have a number 1B receiver. And they've got their quarterback. So, and you can win at this stage of the development if you want to go in with Juwan Johnson. That's why I would just think the defensive side. Now, could they go with a Keldrick Falk? I think this is too high for him. They could use another 5 tech player up here. I think they can get another couple of defensive line a little bit later on, though. The linebackers are now done for a while, for a little bit. So I think Bain has got to be up there. The question, though, is do they look like I talked a lot about this with John Cooper yesterday, associate general manager of Ourlads, about whether these teams that run a 3-4 would draft players that are, when you scout them, they are scouted to be 4-3 defensive ends, that sort of deal. And I guess we'll find out. This will be a really good, perfect situation here because Bain is the best pass rusher right now available, and New Orleans needs pass rushers. So this is a great opportunity because a lot of people thought Delane would go to New Orleans. Kansas City knew that. Why do you think they decided to move up and make the move? Okay, I got to get a board up here. Let's see if I can find a board. Let's see. No, I don't want to use that board. I have another one. Where is it? There it is. Let's get NFL draft board. Yeah, that's it. I want the tracker. Give me the tracker. Here's the tracker. All right, what is this? Okay. Here's the tracker. So give me I want to see the prospects. Position. Oh, okay. They have him here the way it is. Okay. So prospects. So you got Bain. They could go Downs, but I don't know. Let's take a look. Where are they? Here it is. Safeties. Yeah, I think they're fine at safety. Again, if you get a player like Downs, he's the best player maybe on the board. That's fine. I got no problem with that either. You got to go defense.
Miami's on the clock with pick 11, and the card in the commissioner's hand is the Saints at 8. Wrap up the
clock, and the Browns are on the clock when they're not on the clock.
Song blue here, man. Will somebody tell the cover band enough is enough?
Kate Hudson with an Oscar now.
Oh my God, they're still coming.
All right. I guess they're partying in Pittsburgh. They got a long way to go before their pick.
With the 8th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Jordan Tyson, wide receiver.
There you go.
Arizona State.
All right, so the wide receiver out of Arizona State that
All right.
some thought might be the first.
I'm not surprised. And this is, look, I don't know if it was because of Bain's short arms or if it's because he doesn't fit. But look, this is not a surprise because they have to add more wide receivers. I really just thought that they'd add a couple of defensive players, and they're taking a big risk here with the best receiver in the class. We all know he's the best wide receiver in the class. There is no doubting that. But it's still a big risk. I mean, check this out for Tyson. Okay, I'm going to go over his injuries. He missed the entire 2023 season with a torn ACL. He missed the Big 12 title game and the college football playoff for a broken collarbone. That was in 2024. And then he had big hamstring issues middle to late last year that just hampered his play. Matter of fact, that's what just really killed their season last year, Arizona State. Everything was going really, I mean, they had a shot. They really did. They had just pulled off the big upset against Texas Tech. And if you remember, there was like a big play when they were driving down the field, Arizona State. Levitt hit Tyson. And Tyson, like if he was healthy, he probably would have scored a touchdown because it was a crossing pattern. And Tyson gets the ball and he's running and he was limping basically because the hamstring wasn't working. And so he had to go down, and instead of maybe getting the ball inside the 20 or the 10 or a touchdown, they got a first down. It was a big play, but that was the problem. But look, they scored a touchdown. They won the game, and now they're in a big high, and we can maybe be a playoff team, right? Well, that was it for Tyson. And Levitt also had his injuries, but that was it. And they were never the same. And now Levitt's gone. So look, I best of luck with Tyson. This is another organization that needs a jolt, and this will be a big opportunity now if he can stay healthy. And we all wish him the best of luck. Really, really want to see this kid stay healthy. Okay, next up is Cleveland. So Cleveland, they're one of two teams. Actually, let's see. Let me put it over here. Cleveland, New York Giants. So these are, let's see. I'm going to do this. Okay. So Cleveland and the Giants, I think so far we only had 8 picks. So I'm going with these two teams as the best draft so far. And that's because Cleveland gets additional draft capital. And they're still going to end up, like right now, they could pick the tackle if they want. I think Fano would be fine here. You can pick your top tackle here if you want. So I think 9's okay. Let's see, where are they? There you go. So we know Cleveland's adding an offensive tackle. We just don't know when. But you know, whether it's Fano or Mawinoa, those are the two offensive tackles you would think. Now, look, it could be Freeling. It could be Proctor. There's nobody knows with the offensive tackles here. Let's see. But I think definitely Fano. I would put Sadiq as a sleeper. And there's only one receiver left in the top 3. That's Lemon. And Lemon would also be a really good pick. Remember, they got Isaiah Bond, who they stole after the draft last year. But Lemon is also a good pick. But it has to be on offense. I mean, just how the fans would freak out if they went with like down, even though I'm sure they love downs, but it'd probably be a little bit of a freak out if they went with defense in the first round, in their first pick. But hey, he's their best player on the board, right? All right.
They're coming to the stage. Miami with 2 minutes left on the clock for the 11th pick.
I'll say Fano.
Pick is in the chute. Here's the Browns' first selection of 2.
With the 9th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Spencer Fano. Tackle,
there you go.
Utah.
Daniel will give you the floor.
Yeah.
All right. So Fano goes to the Cleveland Browns, and they do end up with the tackle, the first tackle off the board. Just taking a look over here. Okay. First tackle off the board, and a position too that I think there were some people who thought that if Kansas City stayed at 9, that they would also be interested in Fano. So Fano goes to the Browns. And now when they come back around again, look, this is why this is such an awesome trade for the Browns, because you don't get to pick Fano at 6. That's why what a great trade. So you get Fano anyway, and you get 3rd and 5th. That's how you do it. Andrew Berry, awesome move. Okay. Next up, we've got the Giants, and the Giants, of course, already made their pick. And there he is, Arvell Reese. So which way did the Giants go? Oh, they're picking already. Offensive guard.
With the 10th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Francis Maui-Noa, tackle.
Okay, they did not go guard.
So this is to protect Jackson Dart,
but they stayed on the offensive line and went with Maui-Noa. All right. So let's pop that back up for the Giants. They did go offensive line. And let's see, get a little background on Maui-Noa. The good thing, and this is what I expect to happen, Maui-Noa will play guard for the Giants as a rookie. Okay? He's also right now a better run blocker, which, again, goes in line with being a guard. So even though I played extensively, a lot of games, this was a 5-star recruit, started 42 games for Miami, and he's capable of moving inside the guard. And so you keep Illuminor outside, of course. He's a really solid player. Thomas Illuminor. Now you move in Maui-Noa. And I think the Giants now can feel pretty good about their offensive line at this point, because Schmitz made some progress last year. And then you just duke it out with Falelele and Neal and Runyon and say, okay, go at it, boys. 3 or 4 guys competing for that one spot at guard, and Maui-Noa will definitely get the other spot. Okay, next up, number 11 is the Miami Dolphins. Where is Miami? Okay, and the Miami Dolphins, we know pretty simply what they need, okay? A lot. So what are they going to take, though, with what they, what does the board say? Well, when you take a look, matter of fact, I could pop up the board. Okay. So here you go. Just take a look at the NFL board. So Bain is still available. Caleb Downs, I think he would be a really good pick here. This is actually my pick in the mock. I don't think they're going to go wide receiver in the first round of the first draft with a rebuild, but Ourlads did project a wide receiver, I believe. Let's see. Yes, Mekhi Lemon. So we'll see if Ourlads is right, because Lemon is still on the board. And then offensive line. I think Proctor would be a really good pickup for them. You know, he could play a couple different roles on the offensive line. So that's really the way I would go. I mean, you know, Messidor is another local kid along with Bain. So they could go with, you know, one of the local kids. I think offensive line is you know, Proctor. Look, I'm going to go with Down still, but if I had to go with a second choice, I would go with Proctor. Oh, we've got a trade. So the Dallas Cowboys and Miami. Oh, I just missed it. It flashed it off the board there. And they're just ecstatic. Why would they be ecstatic? Because they want to get Ruben Bain, maybe? We know that they need defense. And there's Ruben Bain sitting there. Now, I'm a big Caleb Downs guy for the Cowboys. But, and I don't know. I guess, I don't know. This is interesting. Why would they trade up one spot with Miami? I guess if they did that, you would think, I don't know, very weird. But that's the Cowboys for you. Now, who knows? Maybe it's Mekhi Lemon. And they're so, look, I know all this stuff going on with Pickens, but he signed a franchise tag. He's going to be there for the next 2 or 3 years. Unless the Cowboys feel they're going to trade him because he'll be disgruntled. But contractually, I don't think that's going to work out for anybody. So why would you put offense? No. And again, I don't think Miami, me personally, I don't think Miami's going to go wide receiver. Maybe they were. Maybe they're going to go with one, but I don't think it's offense. I think it's got to be defense. They need defense. They also do need a right tackle. But there's other right tackles available in this draft. So why would you move up? So I think it's got to be Downs or Bain. Has to be. And taking a look at the depth chart for Miami. So this is why when you look at this depth chart, you go, oh, now this is a perfect opportunity for you to go out and get Ruben Bain. See, he fits perfectly with this defense. Okay, you don't have to talk about 3-4, 4-3, any of that nonsense. You can just go, here's a guy that fits our scheme to a T. He's one of the best pass rushers in this draft, and we can get him at 11. Oh, he's got short arms? Okay, fine, whatever. And you know how – wait, I'm looking at the Dolphins. Excuse me. He would have been great on the Dolphins, wouldn't he have? But with the Cowboys, once again, this is now going to go back to that question I said before. Does Ruben Bain fit with the Cowboys defense? Because as well as he fit with the Dolphins, as they just went over, he doesn't fit. But maybe they won't mind. This is another case sample that will be real interesting. Do they go with the best pass rusher on the board? And you know they need pass rushers, even though he may not fit their scheme. Or do they go with Downs? I just can't imagine this is offense. If this is offense, it's going to really be freaky. So I got to imagine it's Bain or Downs still. And maybe this is the reason they made the trade, because when I was going over Miami, I was saying the same thing. It's got to be, Bains or Downs. And maybe the Cowboys are looking at, Bains or Downs. We know that. But we want the guy we want. What is he going to take? And the Dolphins are a rebuilding team. They need picks. And we're going to go ahead and give him a pick. I'm going to stick with Downs. But we'll see. Here we go.
will be. But the commissioner with the Dallas Cowboys, first of 2 picks here tonight.
With the 11th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Caleb Downs, defensive back, Ohio State.
There you go.
So there
I
you go.
love it when
Caleb
a plan
Downs is a Dallas Cowboy,
comes together.
one of the more talented players on Ohio State. And that's
So yeah, it took us a while there we needed those couple of minutes, but the fact was it made a lot of sense now of why they made the trade with Miami. Both Cowboys were looking at Miami, Reuben Bain, Caleb Downs. Again, it was Downs, and Downs was my pick for the Cowboys at 12. When were they with the pick? It was actually my pick for the Cowboys on Monday, I think, because I changed it to Miami on today, just before the show. It worked out for me because I got him at 11, and I got him at 15-1 at 11. So that was a nice hit. I've hit 2 so far, but that was a nice one. 15-1, Downs at 11. But I also had Downs with the Cowboys at 8-1. So either way, it worked out. I had that covered. And there you go. That had to be a big part of it, of course. Otherwise, why are you trading with Miami? There's no reason. Unless you think another team, of course, is coming in there and they're negotiating with the Dolphins. And the Dolphins are telling the Cowboys, hey, we got an offer. We're going to make this deal. Can you give us a better deal? That's the other factor that comes into play here. Is there another team that wanted Caleb Downs, that wanted that spot? And the Cowboys were, and we'll find out. Jerry Jones is really open about these things. Now, he's not always honest. You can't even tell sometimes what he's saying is true, but he will say a lot of stuff. And so he will talk about this. And it'll be interesting to find out whether or not that's what's discussed. Because Miami, let me go ahead and put Miami. That is the 3rd team that has done really well with this draft. So we got Cleveland, the Giants, and Miami. And the second trade is off the books. And Caleb Downs. Let's see, is he in there yet? There he is. That a boy, Tucker. There he is. That's the best depth chart in the business. Caleb Downs. He looks awfully good there, doesn't he? There he is. And, of course, Revel is going to wind up being a big part of this team if he's healthy. So if he is healthy this year, and now you bring in Downs, and you added Jalen Thompson, and you still have Bland, of course, and you also added Durant, things are getting a little bit better there on the Dallas side. All right, next up, Miami. Reuben Bain. Why not? Why not Reuben Bain? I think Reuben Bain is a perfect fit right here for the Dolphins in this 4-3 defense. And if Reuben Bain does not go, then the short arm thing is all of a sudden becoming a nuisance. Let's see who's available here. We got Bain, Lemon, Sadiq. But for the Dolphins, it's Bain. The secondary, again, are they going to – when is somebody going to take the chance on McCoy? If you're the Dolphins, I think you can take a chance on McCoy. Not in your first draft. They could look at it as, hey, we can take a chance on McCoy because this is a rebuild and we're going to get a lot of picks. And so we get an opportunity to take a star player early. We're going to roll the dice and go that way. We're going to take another corner or two a little bit later on with all these picks. But they could even take Hood later on. They go McCoy and Hood. The pick is in right now, but I just think Bain makes an awful lot of sense here, almost too much sense to see anything else. They could go safety, even though Downs is off the board. Thieneman, where will he go now? He's the top safety still left. Anyway, they could also go offensive tackle. But will they wait until later? Because there'll be a lot of those guys later.
With the 12th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Caden Proctor, tackle.
And that's what they did.
Alabama.
They ended up going offensive line.
The trenches with this new regime.
So no surprise that they go with a player either on the offense or defensive line. Jason Sarney, who covers the Dolphins for the Dolphins Wire, talked about exactly that. About how, the matter of fact, the new general manager for the Dolphins talked about it. And that was the same day that as a matter of fact, they had the press conference the same day that I interviewed Jason. And that was the talk about starting inside out. And that's exactly what they did. That's why I was going inside with Bain. But they decided to flip it and go offensive line because Austin Jackson just has way many injury concerns. The good thing when you take a player like Proctor is he plays either tackle or guard. He could play right or left tackle. You know, at least you got Patrick Paul there. So he will start. Caden Proctor will start. And if Austin Jackson's healthy, it'll probably be Austin Jackson at right tackle and Proctor will play one of the two guard spots. All right, good move for the Miami Dolphins. They get extra picks, and they get, I'm sure, the player they were looking for anyway. Next up are the Rams, and this is where you have to believe Mekhi Lemon's going. This is one of those picks each year that come about where you just get this overwhelming feeling that, oh, it's got to be this guy. It's got to be this team. Now, you know what's interesting is that if you're a Jet fan, you're probably sweating your ass off because this is the last logical team to think about a wide receiver here. And the Jets desperately need a wide receiver. But you know, the only thing I can say about that is that they really liked Lemon, the Jets, over some of the other receivers that are still available. If that's the direction they want to go, then they would have traded up to get him. And since they haven't done that, then that's probably the case. Maybe they're looking at Sadiq. But for the Rams, let's take a look at some other possibilities. Could they go somewhere else? Of course, they could. What other direction? Well, the reason why it was really simple for us to deduct wide receivers because Adams was only going to be there another year. Puka, of course, coming off the terrible offseason so far, and he's going to have get a new contract, so there'll be some talks there. You're trying to win a Super Bowl this year. You just cannot afford to have some. And don't forget, these guys both are injury prone at this stage of their careers. We've seen Adams miss some time lately. Puka misses time all the time. So they really look. It's got to be wide receiver. But if it was going to be another way to go, look. See, I guess it would be offensive line. I know there's a lot of talk about can you really trust Alaric Jackson and Warren McClendon? Now, I personally believe yes, they're going to trust them. If they don't. If they need insurance, then you still have a player like Freeling on the board. I think he would be maybe the next best offensive tackle prospect available. Let me see who's also available. Where is it? There it is. Oh, okay. You got Lomu and Freeling. Those are the top two offensive tackles that are still available, and I see that the Rams would look at. The only reason that I don't think they're going to do that is, and I heard Les Need talk about this a little bit, and that is continuity, and how important it is to have the chemistry along the line and have the five guys play as often as possible, and that means a lot. Because there's talk about keeping bodies fresh, and is it good to have a couple other backups that you can spot the other players and keeping them fresh and all that stuff. And yet Snead responded to that in talking about continuity. And so I think he is looking at this line and saying it's cheap. This is why he did such a masterful job forming this team. If you take a look at the roster and all the late round draft picks and undrafted picks, players that are making a contribution on this team, look at this. College free agent, 5th round draft pick. That's their bookend tackles. And they're not bad players. They're good players. They're not great, but they're good. They're solid NFL players. They do not harm the team. They do not harm Matthew Stafford. There's also talk about Sadiq, but I don't see that happening. They like their tight end room. Matter of fact, they're probably going to use less 12 personnel and go back to more 11 personnel, which is another reason why you'd want to add another receiver. There just isn't a player right now. Bain is the best player on the board outside of Lemon. So you got Bain, and then you got Lemon and Sadiq. And they've done a really good job, of course, with the secondary. So unless they want to take a home run hit now on McCoy, could they go, hey, we've done such a good job with McDuffie and Watson. We're all set now with our secondary. Let's take a flyer on McCoy. And if he's healthy, we'll get ourselves a stud corner. Maybe. That could happen, I guess. But I'm actually a little bit surprised that it's taking this long. So they're fielding calls or something. They're going to make the pick. The pick is in. But I have to believe it's going to be Mekhi Lemon, because once you're done with the top 3 wide receivers, the next group, it's anybody's guess. Is it going to be Cooper? Is it going to be Boston, Concepcion? It really does get wide open at that point. And if you're thinking of the secondary as well, again, Thieneman is still out there. There's no other linebackers. Matter of fact, let's see if I can quickly. Let's see. Who's the next best linebacker? Yeah, next best linebackers you're looking at you have to go to the middle linebackers, and none of those guys are getting drafted this early, or it would be a really big surprise if they did. If any of them did. So again, anything can happen, as we know, in this draft more than anything. We've already seen some of it. So you got Thieneman, Bain. Again, not the scheme for Bain, but let's see if it's Mekhi Lemon.
This is going to be one of the few times that quarterback taken 13th overall, if it does come down that way, has no pressure to play. Amazing.
If that happens, then he knew something.
2026 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Rams select Ty Simpson.
There you go.
Quarterback, Alabama.
Wow.
Nice going, jerk off. Sorry if anybody out there listening doesn't like that expression, but yeah, like you didn't know it was going to be a quarterback. Keep your mouth shut, okay? Because we're not in awe of your expertise. You knew it was going to be the quarterback. That's why you opened your mouth and said it. Nobody was thinking the Rams were going to take a quarterback at this pick. We knew the Rams, we've been saying this for a year now, that the Rams were going to take a quarterback, especially in this draft at some point early. We knew they were not going to leave it to Stetson Bennett. We just figured that they were going to grab, the Nussmeyers, the Drew Allers, the Carson Becks, those guys. That's what we were thinking about. Did not believe that they would go to Ty Simpson. Now, Ty Simpson should be very happy, because not just because he's getting picked, but because he's going to Sean McVay. Wow. You might as well, dude. You're set now. Your career is set. If you screw this up, you got nobody else to blame but yourself. But look, this was why when we were thinking about, well, they've got to go receiver, right? This is the reason why it was like, well, it's just such a obvious play because there was nothing else that the Rams needed. So they felt, hey, the same way. We're going to now then go for this is to pay. Let's just go with the top quarterback. Let's do it. You know, what was interesting is that I get the feeling that the reason they took as long as they did is they had to have been taking calls. They had to have been taking calls about moving back, how far they can move back and still get Ty Simpson. And it just didn't work out. But again, is this a surprise that they took a quarterback early? Absolutely not. But here, this is important. Okay, the other reason why it is a surprise that they did it here is because they are trying to win a Super Bowl. And you would think that there would be another player that they could add to the roster to help them win the Super Bowl this year. But they obviously like Simpson enough and believe that he is going to be a top quarterback in this league for McVay to work with for the next 10 years. And if that's the case, and that's what you believe, then go ahead and do it. Next up, Baltimore. And we're starting to see some surprises now, which is not a surprise. And we're gonna start seeing more and more surprises. This is the fun that Les Snead said we'd see. Not Brett Veach said we'd see. So with Baltimore, the two players that we really have zeroed in on with the Ravens are still there. Sadiq and Ioana. They're still there. But you know what? So is Ruben Bain. And again, another example here of is he slipping because his arm length, or is he slipping because a lot of these teams run a 3-4? Or is it a combination of both? Well, another example here for the Baltimore Ravens to put that to bed, because what the Ravens franchise has done year in and year out is they take advantage of situations like this. Oh, Ruben Bain, probably the top 3 prospect in all of the NFL. I mean, in the draft, and you're going to let him slip all the way to 14. We'll take him. Thank you. That's what the Ravens do. That's why they've been successful so many years. They did it with Starks last year. Ourlads had Starks rated as a top 10 draft pick. And they were able to get him in the 20s. And they got Mike Green in the second round when a lot of people thought he could have been a late first-round draft pick. That's why the Ravens are the Ravens. Here we go.
Administration. Take it away, Commish.
I don't know this is as much for the commission
With
as it
the
is for Baltimore.
14th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Ourlads, Ioane, guard, Penn State.
Well,
And that was an easy one. So there you go. The easy one is off the board. I thought the easy one was going to be the Rams, and it turned out to be Baltimore. So how about that? Baltimore gets their guard. The best guard in the draft by far. And you know what? When it's all said and done, when we look back at this draft years from now, maybe the best lineman in the draft. So good for them. And next up comes Tampa Bay. I mean, this was an easy one. We talked about Baltimore even the last few days. So there's nothing much left to say. Look, they still need a 3 tech, I think. They also need an edge rusher they need more edge rusher help. But offensive guard is definitely at the top of the list. And, they probably need some tight end depth. So Tampa Bay is up. And the defensive backfield is really what we're thinking about with Tampa Bay. But this is Tampa Bay. And last year they picked a wide receiver when no one thought they were going to. So Mekhi Lemon is still on the board. There's been a lot of talk about Kenyon Sadiq. Tampa Bay has already proven that they'll take players at positions that appear to be already filled. So that last year, this looks fine. Look, Cade Otton, fine player. During Payne, fine player. But neither one of them can stretch defenses like Kenyon Sadiq. So I really would think, which is the reason why in my mock, I don't know if I had Sadiq or not here, but I didn't have, but I think that if it's down to Sadiq and Lemon, I think Sadiq makes just more sense. Because with Lemon, they were really happy with the way Chris Godwin looked and Jalen McMillan looked after their injuries. So they're back to health. Of course, they've got a stud in Igbuka. And they also have Tez Johnson. And I know they like David Sills. So their wide receiver room is stocked. But this is Tampa Bay. And I guess we could see Lemon. I don't think they have to do anything but the offensive line. So to me, it's look, you've got Lemon and you've got Sadiq. I think it's Sadiq 1, Lemon 2. Defensively, there's a lot of talk about an inside linebacker. I just think this is too early for CJ Allen, Rodriguez, Hill, whoever you're going to take. I think this is too early. And then you go to defensive backfield, and this is definitely a need. You got to get another corner in here. Are they willing to go with McCoy? Which team is going to be willing to draft McCoy? Will he last until round 2? Will he get drafted now? What about Colton Hood if they don't go with McCoy? Is it possible that they go with the next rated corner? It could be Johnson. Terrell also has an injury situation, or else he would have been a really good pickup as well here. Matter of fact, a lot of people thinking that Terrell might even be the next rated. Matter of fact, where does Ourlads? Ourlads has Terrell. Let's see. We have Terrell. He's next. Even though there are still a lot of players on the board that Ourlads rates in the top 15. I mean, right around this, right around here. Let's see if there's anybody. Well, of course, Bain is still left. But Lemon would be the next one. You got Bain, who Ourlads grades as number 3 overall. So we have him at 3. There, if you're looking at, matter of fact, if you're looking at NFL Network, they posted it right now where who are the players that are left. So you can see for yourself. But yeah, again, is it McCoy? Is he going to wait? Is he going to last all the way to the second round? I don't think they go safety here at all. They're fine there. Will they go inside linebacker? Is it too early? And again, you've got Lemon and you've got Sadiq. And you got the Jets sitting there at 16, more than likely ready to pick either Lemon or Sadiq if Tampa Bay does go offense here. Even though the Jet fans might have to also hold their breath because they might take a chance on McCoy. Every team is different when it comes to medicals. The only thing with McCoy with the team like the Jets as opposed to Tampa Bay is that Tampa Bay, their front office, they're in much better shape. I know their coach is not as safe as their general manager, but they could take a hit. I don't think the Jets at this point can afford a miss in the first round. But for Tampa Bay, just before they make their pick, Sadiq, Lemon, corner, inside linebacker. Let's see where they go.
The commissioner just put $5 in the tip jar for him.
With the 15th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Ruben Bain Jr.
Good for him and good for them.
All right, so he goes from South Florida to Central Florida. What do you think?
I thought they might end up getting his teammate in Mesidor.
So there you go.
Imagine that Ruben Bain would be
just as John Cooper said yesterday, 3-4-4-3 doesn't matter. You have a player like Ruben Bain Jr. that can rush the passer. We're going to go get him. And Ruben Bain Jr., again, Ourlads rates him as the third best player in the draft. The Tampa Bay Bucks get him at 15. So Tampa Bay, they're now in the best draft category. I've got 5 teams in there right now. I've got 1 in the worst. I've got 5 in the best. And I'm not going to give, like, say, Baltimore, like, put them in the best just for picking a player we all knew they pick. But and I don't and if you're not in the best, it does, again, it also doesn't mean that I don't think you had a good draft. Okay. Oh, 2 trades so far, only 2. So the Jets, here they are. I know Jet fans, and they are going to get really upset if the Jets do not take Mekhi Lemon here. Now, if they take Kenyon Sadiq, it'll be okay, we didn't get Lemon, but we got Sadiq. We're happy. But Jet fans want Lemon and Sadiq, but they want Lemon more. What else do the Jets need? Well, they need another interior lineman, but Yoanna's gone, so that ain't happening here. Also, on elsewhere on defense, now that they have a pass rusher, they probably at some point might want to add another inside linebacker. I'd love them to pick up the kid Rodriguez on day 2. This would just be a little bit too high in round 1 for any of the inside linebackers to go, as I mentioned. I just don't think any of them will go until the 20s at the earliest. So, but the secondary, again, this is what I've talked about, the Jets in the secondary. I don't think they're going safety, even though you have Thieneman and Emmanuel Wilson. You have 2 very talented safeties. But the Jets really like Malachi Moore, and they made a deal for Belton. And they brought back Cisco, and they also have Minkah Fitzpatrick and Brownlee at nickel. So they have 3 safeties. Fitzpatrick plays half of his time at safety. Brownlee plays nickel. Now, I do believe that the Jets need another nickel. And so Terrell would be somebody that I think they would consider, but I can't imagine Terrell is going to go early because of his injury situation. So overall, the way I'm looking at it here is I'm looking at Lemon 1, Sadiq 2. I don't think that again, just like with Tampa Bay, I don't think these teams are going to take McCoy early, and I don't see the Jets doing it. The only way I could see the Jets doing it, keeping in mind that they've had a very busy offseason on defense. Look at this. Compared to the offense, besides Geno, look at all this on defense. And if they were to add somebody like McCoy and say, hey, we checked him out, we're fine, he's elite, the best corner in the draft, then they could go that direction. It is Aaron Glenn. You know how much he likes his DBs. But the offense, it's time to take care of the offense. And I wouldn't want to be the Jets for 24 hours, that's for sure, if they don't go offense.
With the 16th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Kenyon Sadiq,
There you go, Joe.
tight end, Oregon.
So they're going 2 tight ends here.
I mean, this
Okay.
guy can go get it on the outside.
Not a surprise, of course. So we felt it was going to be Sadiq or Lemon, and it winds up being Sadiq. So again, I think the fans wanted Lemon. He was still there. Now what's interesting is that Lemon has lasted this long. This is actually a little bit surprising. And he's a very good football player. But Sadiq is, see, the reason you go Sadiq over Lemon is just because you're saying, and I'm just throwing it out there, well, we've got Garrett Wilson, and we kind of feel Lemon is another Garrett Wilson. But Sadiq, well, we don't have one of those guys. And one of the reasons I also kind of felt that this was a possibility was when Aaron Glenn talked up, he singled out Mason Taylor for having an excellent offseason, and he really put him out there. Oh, tight end room. We got Taylor, Jeremy Ruckert. We gave him an extension, and it was almost like, yeah, don't look this way with tight ends. And keeping in mind, though, Frank Reich likes to use 12 personnel. And now he's got 3 tight ends, and he's got one that can really cause problems for the defense. So Kenyon Sadiq to the Jets. That is the 4th pick I hit on the market. Next up, let's talk about Detroit and Lions. Look, this should be all about pass rush or offensive tackle. I don't think there's a whole lot to go on here. So pass rush or tackle. Well, let's bring in, just noticed him over there, the associate general manager of the Ourlads.com website, John Cooper. Sorry to keep you there, John. So many different things going on here on my screen. Before Detroit picks, what do you think? What surprised you the most?
Simpson being drafted as high as he was. We thought there was a chance he would go in the first round. We thought maybe a trade back in or maybe Pittsburgh, but I think the Rams wanted him. They kind of looked at, well, the Cardinals and maybe Pittsburgh are looming, so we better do it now. We got 2 first-round picks. That's their logic. We can always say those things are logical when we think about it after the fact. It happens every year. But that was probably the biggest one. Baines slipping as far as he did was a surprise. Moderate surprises with, Reese not going early. I think the Giants didn't expect that and pivoted quickly, made a very quick adjustment to take the best off-the-ball linebacker in the draft, even though Sonny Styles is a great player.
Yeah, with the Rams, we all knew they were going to take a quarterback, but we just had no idea they were going to do it with that pick in the first round, because one of the things it does is you're looking at a team that everybody, look, they're the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl right now. So couldn't they use a player that's going to help them to win a Super Bowl this year? But on the other way, I guess you look at it is that it was probably in their minds too good to pass up. They must have, McVay must just love this kid and feel like I've got a quarterback here that's able to pass the torch here from Stafford and be here for the next 10 years.
Well, yeah, he's talented. Like I said before, we have a guy that has worked with him, a former player of mine, one of the quarterback schools, and spent a lot of time with him. Just loves him, coaches kid, hard worker, football junkie, just loves the game. He's got that mentality. He's got a ways to go. Sitting on the bench for a while and learning is going to really help him. He's done it before, playing behind Bryce Young and Jalen Milroe. So it's a perfect situation for him. He was going to need that kind of situation. A winning team, you can see what championship football looks like, from the sideline for a while. Whereas, with the Cardinals, it's going to be a rebuild. So this is probably the best place for him that he could have gone.
Detroit is up next, and I think most people believe it's going to be an offensive tackle or an edge rusher. And I believe Caleb Lomu, Caleb Lomu is the next tackle that might be available on the board. And then on the other side, you do have some edge rushers still left. I think Mesidor, of course, is maybe the top guy. So are those a couple of players you would expect Detroit to
think about Monroe Freeling too, because he's moved
Freeling,
up.
yes, Freeling. Okay.
He's a left tackle. I'd say he's a possibility here too. Keldrick Falk is a possibility. It's kind of fluid. You can see that not everybody views these guys the same. He likes tough guys, that's for sure. And Mesidor and Falk, they fit the bill. We like Mesidor. We think this would be a good spot for him. But we think one of those offensive tackles could be in play.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way. I think that they know they got to get that smash mouth game going again, and the offensive line, how quickly it evaporated with injuries and players getting older. We're gonna zero in on the pick here, but it looks like they're gonna maybe have another announcement. Let's see what this is about.
NFL is proud to be part of the global community.
All right, I'm assuming the kid's gonna make the pick, I would guess. So let's just hang out here for
Tonight, you all have the opportunity to help grant an unforgettable wish.
Are you surprised Mekhi Lemon is still on the board?
Yeah, I am, because he's a playmaker. He does a lot of things, so I am a little bit surprised. But the board fell differently than a lot of people thought it was. I don't think I'm surprised that Miami taking Proctor. That was a risk. I thought they would go wide receiver. But they want big people, like you were saying. I heard you.
Yeah.
And they want big tough guys. And the Jackson could play guard. He could play tackle, and Proctor could play guard. He could play tackle. But that's probably the right side of their line.
Draft. The Detroit Lions select Blake Miller, tackle, Clemson.
No, there's one we didn't mention, but we mentioned everybody else, but
well, that's experience though, right?
Yeah. Well, and Blake Miller, we had a 1-2 range grade on him. He was actually, if you go by, which we hate to do, I think in my way of ranking, if guys are fairly equal, I would like to, for our grading system, we keep them, in the numerical and just go with a complete stack. But Blake Miller fits right in a cluster of players who could go in the latter half of the first round. So it's not a huge surprise. He's ranked actually 33rd on our board, but some people, the boards are going to be different because they're going to eliminate players oftentimes that are not at need positions for their board. So this is there's probably a cluster of offensive tackles that Detroit could have taken, and Miller was one of them, and that's the one they like the best.
He's got the most
left tackle too.
And he's got the most experience, started 54 games, 4-year starter. And one of the things I noticed in our scouting report is that he plays with an edge. And we know that's very important for their head coach.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's, I didn't go quite down far enough when I was looking at that, but that's exactly correct.
Minnesota's up next, and a lot of people, we talked about this yesterday. You lose Harrison Smith, you got Dylan Thieneman, and maybe this is going to be a perfect transition. So the pick is already in, and let's see where they go. Mekhi Lemon possible here?
With the 18th pick in the 2020
I know, right?
The Minnesota Vikings select Caleb Banks.
Wow.
Florida.
Well, we know they needed a 5-tech, but I didn't expect Caleb Banks, who missed a lot of time last year, to go at this point in the draft, the 18th pick of the draft.
Well, yeah, that's the biggest surprise for me because I don't think he's very high on a lot of people's boards. Now, he has really flashed solid play. We've got him, 40th on our board, and so that's a big jump up. But if you're clustering the defensive tackles, he has a first, second round range grade on him as far as the cluster. So going in the first round's not out of the question for our, rating system, because if you look at our board, we've got them projected via round they could go in. When we get down to around 16, 17, the round projection is 1 to 2, and he is in that 1 to 2 range. So he's the first defensive tackle to go off the board. We have about 3 guys ranked ahead of him.
Yeah.
On our, if you just go by the defensive tackles, but you got to separate those defensive tackles into the type of player they are. The two guys we have ahead of, 2 of the guys we have ahead of them are nose tackles. They're strictly, going to be one techniques. They're going to be guys that are going to keep the double team, the climbing blockers off linebackers. They're not going to give you a whole lot of pass rush. Potentially, Caleb Banks can give you some pass rush because he has really flashed that style of play. 6'6", 327. He's got length. He's got all the tools, but he just hasn't played to that level. At least this past season, he only played 3 games. And one of them was a good game. The other 2 weren't. Whether that was because of the injury he was coming off of, I don't know. But, we thought there might have been a little bit of risk with that pick. And, that's why we had him, a little bit down the line compared to those other 3 tackles.
Yeah. And I wouldn't have been surprised.
Or 1 tackle, I should say. Christian Miller is the guy that's more of a 3 technique than we have, although he can play a 1 too. We like Christian Miller, and McDonald, a little bit better than Banks. And Orange, if you want stuff to run, the big citrus is the guy you want.
Yeah, because you might look at him and think that for someone that's almost 330 pounds, that most people would think he's a nose tackle, but that's not his game. And that's a good thing because, again, you're not going to draft a nose tackle unless he happens to be, one of the best nose tackles over the last 5 years at number 18. But this guy Banks does have different traits that you are looking for with the 18th
Right,
pick.
he's got the traits you want in a 3 technique. He definitely does. I mean, he could be really a good player. We've said that all along. In fact, if you look at our preseason rankings, we had him, fairly high up there. And we didn't like the way he played this year necessarily. And part of that was injury. He came off some injury that he really only played in 3 games all year. And so, you're kind of projecting what he can do rather than what he's done. And some teams have been very successful doing that. And he very well may be, traits-wise, the best one of these defensive tackles.
Talk a little bit about the differences, because this is definitely an education, even for me. Talk a little bit about the differences when in the old days, it was always just, okay, you got a 3-4 and you got a 3-4 defensive ends and a nose tackle, a defensive tackle. But now, obviously there's more than that. We talk about 5 techs, 0 techs, 3 techs. What's the difference between a Caleb Banks, say 3 tech, and say a Keldrick Falk that could be a 5 tech?
Well, some teams, for example, a team like the Ravens, when they were a 3-4 team, the way that John Harbaugh played the 3-4, they would take sometimes a 300-pounder or a 310-pounder, put them at 5 technique on rundowns in their base defense. You know what I mean? Because they could set the edge, for the off-tackle runs. They could take up space there. Then they'd have a great big kid like Pierce inside, and Dominique Orange would be that guy. And then when you get into some of your sub packages, those guys can play 3 technique, which is where sub packages are played in the NFL on the average 75% of the time. So the better teams that are going to be played more. They're going to be played 80% of the time because teams are throwing the ball against them all the time to try to catch up. The teams that are playing, with leads, or they're coming from behind all the time, the other team's going to be running the ball, so they're going to be in their base defense. So you have to have both, and you're going to have certain types of players, and you're going to have some rotational players. It's not 11 starters anymore; it's about 18 or 19 starters. As far as your rotations are concerned, both at safety, at the secondary positions, and at the up front positions, the linebackers too, to a degree. So that's where that difference comes in. A guy like, for example, I'm going to use Lee Hunter, for example, because I know he gets a little bit of hype. He's 6'3", 322. He's a one technique is what he is. He's going to line up. He's going to play in that one over the center, sometimes maybe a zero, depending upon the front they're using. And, when they run those combo blocks, his job is going to be to make sure that guard can't come off on the linebacker. And we want him to get some push up the middle. And we want him to split double teams. We want him to be stout at the point of attack. And we want him to create for other people. And if they're going to run those A gaps, you're going to move laterally well enough that you can own both A gaps and beyond. And so that's what you want to see in your nose tackle. And that guy might not play more than 25 snaps a game, 25, 30 snaps a game. If he's good and he can collapse the pocket, he's going to play more, and so that's kind of, the way that works. But your three techniques oftentimes are interchangeable with your 3, 4, 5 techniques because they're going to line up in 4 eyes. They're going to line up in 6s sometimes, depending upon, what the offense is doing. If they're playing, a lot of 12 personnel, and things like that. So it's going to depend, but you want some flexibility. You want some, guys that can do more than one thing to play at that 5 technique, 3 technique combination.
What can you tell? Oh, we have another pick in. And by the way, Freeling, of course, you might have already heard he went to Carolina. So let's see where the Eagles are going to go. Are they doing what they normally do?
With the Cowboys moving
defense
down
or
3
offensive
spots.
line?
With the 20th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select Makai Lemon.
Or will they go with Makai Lemon because he slipped?
That's it.
Wow. Another obvious sign that A.J. Brown is headed to the New England Patriots in about a month.
Yeah,
So,
we've been hearing that out of Philly for a long time. We knew wide receiver was definitely on their board, even though they traded for traded with the Packers.
Yeah,
we knew that was a possibility, and that was one of the things we talked about that they might do.
Yeah. So getting back to Carolina, they wind up getting an offensive tackle. We knew that was a possibility. Moton is getting up there, and Rasheed Walker was brought in as insurance for Icky, who may not start the season. But they need somebody in there as the future heir apparent to Taylor Moton. And that's the perfect tackle to bring in for that purpose because Freeland can, kind of bide his time. He's got to get maybe a little bit stronger and, he's a young kid. So that seemed like a really good pick for Carolina.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He's the kind of guy you want in there, as far as that type of player. Play on the left side, got good feet. He moved up the boards.
Yeah, off fast over the last couple of months since the season ended, and so
yeah, we thought he could go as high as 17.
Okay,
we thought Detroit was in play there, but
and then of course with Lemon lasting this long, that was a home run for the Eagles. You can imagine how happy they were knowing that they're going to trade Brown. Wicks, this is what you do. You make sure that they couldn't get obviously a player like that in free agency, so you make a trade and you keep your fingers crossed. They were probably going to use up a pick in the second round for a wide receiver, and lo and behold, Makai Lemon sits there on their lap at 20. So this is what the good teams do: take advantage of the draft. Yeah. So really good sign there for Eagle fans as usual. They know what they're doing there. And Makai Lemon is an Eagle. And we've got a lot more to go on here. How much longer do you have with us, John?
Maybe about 5 minutes.
Okay.
I have to go pick somebody up.
Another question I wanted to ask you before we were talking about the nose tackles. What was can you remember the best nose tackle? Again, just zero tech that came into the NFL, and that was a high draft pick. Somebody that was so good that he was drafted, I don't know, top 10, top 15. Can you remember that player?
Well, I'm thinking of the, just looking at the Philadelphia Eagles a few years ago. The name escapes me. I know who he is. The big kid that's playing for the Eagles right now.
Let's see. He's
Get
on
the Eagles depth chart out.
Yep, you got it right there. Jordan Davis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and yes, that's a kid. Look, he went in the first round in 22. That's the guy I think. I can't remember how high he went, but he was
that's
high.
Jordan Davis. Yep, he went. Let's see, he was the 13th pick.
Yeah, that's pretty high. So those guys are valuable. This is not a great year for those guys. These guys all have flaws. They all have holes, and I think it's going to depend upon which hole you think you can live with as to where you're going to take them. I'm surprised Banks went that high, but obviously the upside they really liked. Minnesota liked him, the upside, and so that's why he's there. Okay,
Pittsburgh is the hometown team. I'm sure the fans are happy that Mekhi Lemon just went to Philly. They might have been interested in Mekhi Lemon as well. I know Pittsburgh's looking for a wide receiver. They're also looking for a left tackle, possibly. Caleb Lomu's on the board.
Yeah, that was another one.
So he could be a really good pick here for because the offensive tackles are going fast. There's you got Lomu, and then I guess you probably go next to that Arizona State kid.
Yeah, Eichner.
Because Miller, of course,
we thought there would be a run on offensive linemen starting at 10, and because we thought that the Giants would take one. It turns out it was started at 9, but close enough.
Also, I think Keldrick Falk may not be a bad fit here.
No.
All right. The pick is in. Otherwise, just taking a look at what else the Steelers need. It just looks like offensive. Look, Lomu would be a really good fit here. I don't think they'll
I think Lomu, he is a guy that would be a fit. We had Freeling mocked to him. And I think that's a possibility. I know the Chargers want, a guard.
Oh yeah, they do,
and they need one pretty bad. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
I'm really interested to see what the Cowboys do with their pick.
Yep, the Cowboys, of course, made the trade, which was a little bit of a surprise, moving up one spot, but they got their player. And they needed to upgrade on defense, and they were able to pick up a very good safety. So
we thought they would go secondary, with the early pick. We thought if McCoy was healthy, that would be a somebody they'd look at.
You think this is a good spot for McCoy? Are we now getting to the area where now taking a chance on McCoy is possible, or do you suspect he's just going to end up being a day 2 pick?
Well, the two guys that we think Dallas was looking at one point both had injury issues, which would be going to make them drop probably, and some things that maybe have come up, in both of those guys. And it's C.J. Allen, the linebacker from Georgia, and McCoy. So I'm interested to see if one of those two might be in Dallas. And if not, and if they keep falling, then I think we'll have our answer.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good move for Miami. You pick up some draft collateral, and you only had to move down one spot. So, and I guess they were picking a player that they didn't feel the Cowboys were going, and they weren't. They were going with a safety. So, and I also think Cleveland did
up one unless it says, "Hey, we're taking the safety unless you trade with us." That has to be what was going on, don't you think?
Yeah, I guess there could have been another team maybe.
That's only one pick. They only moved up one pick.
Yeah. Unless there was another team, unless the Cowboys were basically battling for another team that wanted to move up maybe ahead of them to get downs.
Yeah.
It's possible. I also think Cleveland did a good job. To move down a couple spots.
Yeah, they were battling with another team that wanted to trade up from somewhere else. That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, there's the tackle from Arizona State. So the Steelers do go offensive line. They don't go Lomu. They go with the offensive lineman from Arizona State. And that is Max Ionitor. with only
I
5
can't
years of
pronounce the name.
experience.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Our guy who does our offensive line, he's seen a lot of them, and he thinks he's raw, but he has a lot of upside.
And also a good spot for a player like that, because just like Freeling, these teams have players like Moten and I know Jones may not start the season, but at some point he's going to play as long as he's healthy enough. And I certainly hope, obviously, he is. Neck injuries are nothing to screw around with. But still, they get a player that has a big upside based on his inexperience. So there's a lot to work with there.
I think the Chargers would like to have somebody that could play guard here, and I think some of the guys
how about
we
Lomo?
thought are gone. Lomo, I'm not sure. I think he's more of a left tackle kind of guy. But hey,
okay,
you can, and the McDaniel likes athletic guards, so having a guy that can play guard and tackle is probably desirable.
How about Dunker?
Yeah, that's a thought. That's a thought. It's a little.
Do you
high
think
for
he's going to
him,
play
but,
guard?
Yeah, I think there's a strong possibility. Let's put it that way. These guys are pretty flexible, with how they want to use offensive linemen. Sometimes, I don't think they pigeonhole guys until they get them in the building. And then you've seen some teams that have flipped guys around. Usually they like to draft tackles to play tackle. That's ideally. But when you start getting down here, then it's a little different. I think the Giants would be surprised if Maui Noah doesn't play guard.
Yeah, and taking a look at the Chargers, besides the obvious at offensive line, this is also a team that could be looking in the secondary. Maybe the next safety, Thieneman, McNeil Warren. I'd put those two guys as possible picks here for the Chargers. Keldrick Falk, that would be a possibility.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That'd be a nice pick for the Chargers.
When you get down, because a lot of these guys we thought were going to be gone, and some of the guys we thought were going to be there for the Chargers are gone. So, it's.
And who do you think is going to be?
Gene Nudo texted me. He thought Eichner was going to go because you got that word because he's out there in Arizona. So I just looked at the text.
The pick is in. And when do you think? I know you got to go here. We'll let you go after this pick. Give me a prediction on when you think the next quarterback's going to go, and who will it be?
Next quarterback, third round, second or third.
Really? We won't have a quarterback picked in the second round.
It's possible. I said second or third.
Oh, second or third. Okay.
Second or third, and I think it'll be either Nussmeier or Beck.
Okay. All right. Let's get the pick.
With the 22nd pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Chargers select Akeem Mesidor, linebacker, Miami.
No surprise.
No, not really, because he was a guy that slipped in our minds. He slipped a few places, and I think Chargers need help, and there wasn't an offensive lineman that they valued enough to take there at that spot.
Yeah, and they get a pass rusher. Of course, they lost Owe. Washington gave up a lot of money for him. No way the Chargers were going to match that, and so they replaced him with Mesidor, and that's a much needed boost to that.
When we did our mock draft, that was one of the things we said in the article. We said they also need an edge rusher that's online and another corner. So they still have some work to do. They've still got to get that offensive lineman later on.
Yeah, the good thing is that, again, now that we're at this point, they, even though they need a guard, they could, as long as they do their due diligence and they get a good player, guards can start in the second round, the third round, and Strange is going to start for them. Biotish is going to start for them. They've got Slater and Alt, so they really just have to find one guard that might be able to crack the starting lineup as a rookie, and you might be able to get that guy in round 2 or round 3. Yeah,
so I think Dallas is going to take the best defensive player on their board. I think they
Okay.
have to upgrade their defense. So it could be a tackle. It could be one of those tackles that we gave the 1-2 range on. It could be an off-the-ball linebacker. It depends upon how they view the off-the-ball linebackers. If C.J. Allen's not the guy, because we know that they were interested simply because of the connection between one of the linebacker coaches from Georgia now being with the Cowboys. But they could take a tackle. They could take an edge rusher that's there that they like, one of the guys that's left. They could take a corner as well.
Colton Hood.
Some corners coming up. Colton Hood, yeah. Chris Johnson could get up there possibly. So yeah,
I don't think they'll take McCoy, but wasn't McCoy? Did you guys draft McCoy in the mock?
Yeah, we did. We had him higher. We had him at 12, but that was before the new information flipped about maybe a possible another situation with the injury. So yeah, we would, and that happens to us all the time, in our mock drafts. We don't get all that information right away.
Well, here's 23, so I think we're starting to get to that range where McCoy's, it's almost time for some team to take a chance.
Well, no, we were worried about Noah's back too, and the fact that he went at 10, obviously that's not an issue. That's that was speculative rumor that we heard like everybody else, but it didn't affect us quite that much in how we stacked those guys. We still had them in the top half of the first round.
And you don't expect a running back or a tight end to get drafted until day 2.
No,
after
Stowers is good enough to maybe sneak into the first round as a receiving type tight end. Because we like him a lot, and I know Gene likes him a lot. Gene Nudo.
Yeah, there's a couple of teams like New England. I could see them taking a look at him, maybe even Houston. So a couple of teams might look at Stowers, and then it's anybody's guess who the number 2 running back is going to go. That's for sure. I think we can guess, but it's probably going to be one of the players nobody's expecting. One of the running backs nobody's expecting. Oh, and I could also, safety is also a possibility here with Thieneman.
But you still got 2 good safeties, Thieneman and McNeil Warren, right?
Yep.
Yeah, in fact, that's although Dallas just took one, so they're probably not going to take another one.
That's true. Yeah. And also, Falk, you think Falk would fit here in this defense?
Yeah, they need a pass rusher for sure. That's another one of their needs. They need another guy. So yeah, it's just a matter of what they, the best player available, on their board.
Yeah, looking at their depth chart here, I don't really see that. They've got to get another player up front. Ogbonia is not a guy that you're really going to be trusting for extensive snaps. So I think that would definitely be a spot we could be looking at.
They've got to go. They got to take where they think the need is, their weakest on their defense, and the best player available that fits that need. But quite frankly, they've got a weakness at every level, and they've got to upgrade that.
And Cassius Howell, I think he should probably go soon.
He's going to get it. He'll be in that. I think he still has first round. Bain slipped, and it may have something to do with the analytics in terms of the length. Yep. We didn't bother us that much because his wingspan differential is +3. Cassius Howell, on the other hand, is 0, so that's a little different. We're strictly looking at him on his production and his quickness and what he did and what we see as an athlete. And it'll look like a short-armed guy when he plays, but the measurements don't lie, and so teams that take that into consideration a lot are going to drop him down on their boards.
All right, here's the Cowboys.
23rd pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Malachi Lawrence, defensive end, University.
Malachi Lawrence. So we're getting into that part of the draft where anybody that is considered a top 45 talent could end up going in the first round at this point.
Well, we had him. We had him in the third round. So
even further.
Yeah. So for us, but in that third round range, just below first, second round, or second, third consideration, just below second round range. But he's a high upside player. He's 6'4", 253. He's got really good length, and he runs. He's got great speed. A little bit raw, but he came on, and I think he has had great workout numbers, and the analytics like him a lot. So from that point, it makes sense, because a lot of these other guys that are out there, the Parkers and the Zion Youngs and the Keldrick Falks, they're not necessarily the blue chip elite trait pass rusher type guys. In fact, none of them. I'm looking at the guys on the list, other than Cassius Hall, and his is based on strictly athleticism, not versus the traits. So if you look at it from that perspective, you can see why teams would select a Malachi Lawrence that high, because he has the traits. He really does.
Okay, that is going to be it for John. He's got to go. We really appreciate you stepping in here for a little bit, John. Enjoy the rest of the draft.
Yep. All right. Well, listen, thanks. And
if it's as fun and unpredictable as we've seen so far, yeah, it's going to be excellent. Sure. So
for sure.
I appreciate it, John.
Just goes to show you how much we know, huh?
Well,
all right. We'll see you.
Thanks, John.
Bye-bye.
Take care. All right. That's John Cooper, Associate General Manager at Ourlads.com. And once again, it's not about predicting mock drafts. It's about scouting players and putting those reports together and giving you guys some really good content, which is why you want to be taking a look here at the Ourlads Draft Guide. We've got reports on all of these players, a couple of hundred, a matter of fact. So I'd say about 90% of the players that get drafted will have scouting reports on those players. And then, of course, you're going to get players that our lads would consider a college free agent grade. And we've got a whole list of that as well. Once the scouting reports are done with each pick, there is another, I guess, about 10 to 15 other players that just missed making the grade as a draftable player. But we list the players after that and say, okay, here's the best of the rest. So you can take a look at who are those players as well. That because it's very rare that a player's drafted that is not in the guide. Okay, so where are we now? We are at pick. Oh, the Browns are picking, and they are up at 24. And the Cleveland Browns, again, I really feel they're one of the teams that I believe had a very good draft. I know it's early, but they got their tackle in Fano. And now taking a look at what they have to do. Let's see, where are we? Here we go. We got to do something. We got to get a player that is going to help them skill position-wise. I think that's the way they have to go. They got their linemen. Now they have to go in and either get a tight end or a wide receiver. So Boston's on the board. Concepcion is up there. Cooper's up there. Stowers is there, a tight end. Again, does Monken want to go and play similar 12, 13 personnel that he did at Baltimore? Or will he change and play more 11? If that's the case, another wide receiver here would really fit. And again, taking a look at the top wide receivers that are left, and there are some good ones. We've got, I just mentioned the first three. And then you've got a couple of others that I spoke about the other day, but I think I think we have a little bit of a gap between these three. Brazel would probably be 4 from Tennessee. But I think there's now we got another top three. We had the first top three. Now we have the next top three. We have the second group at wide receiver. We got Concepcion, we've got Cooper, and we got Boston. I think this is the way Cleveland will probably go. They've got to get more offense in here.
Get the receiver. Well, that's what they said coming in, right? Get a tackle, get a receiver in what order?
There you go.
Okay, yeah, there he goes. Now we know we're getting a receiver.
With the 24th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Casey Concepcion.
There you go.
Wide receiver, Texas A&M.
Okay, so they get the receiver, and it is Casey Concepcion.
And you see, I knew that was definite because I forget who his name is. Who's the guy that does the NFL Network? The guy that I just ripped before for basic for letting everybody know the Rams were picking Simpson a few seconds before they picked them, and he just did it again with wide receiver. So Concepcion goes, and this is a really good pickup for the Browns because now they add a weapon. You know, those three receivers I talked about, I would have had, me personally, I would have had Boston, Concepcion, and then Cooper because those, I think they were better weapons. Boston's got the size. Concepcion is just a playmaker. You know, he can score anytime the ball touches his hands. And that's what the Browns need. Browns need offensive playmakers. And now they got one. So now you got, now if you take a look at their overall skill position, you got Judkins. Hopefully Sampson takes a big step because he's going to be counted on to be a good number two. And then you got Fannin, Judy, Bond, and Concepcion. I still can't count on Tillman. But again, yeah, just take a look at Bond. Remember, this is a kid. Here it is. Draft projection. Second, third round. Okay. But they had that off the field stuff before the draft. Everybody stayed away. He was cleared, and the Browns got the benefit. They basically got an extra second round draft pick. But good for them because they're the team that signed him. And so now they've got Bond, Judy, and Concepcion. And then, you know, and also Tylan Wallace and Malachi Corley are two young, talented receivers that are looking to be, you know, they're getting another opportunity. And we'll see if either one of them can come through as depth at wide receiver for the Browns. Okay. Next up, the Chicago Bears. Nope, starting to fly now. Where are we? 25. All right. I think I had Concepcion as a possibility here in one of my mocks. So he's gone. That doesn't mean they won't draft another receiver. So Cooper, Boston. Look, they do have to add another. I think they have to add another lineman here, but you know, just for depth purposes. But I don't think you're doing that early. So there's a lot of other options here. The Bears have a lot of different things they can do here. You can go edge. You got Howells out there. You've got Parker out there. You got Young out there. Even Jackus. Defensive tackle. You can go with Hunter, McDonald, Woods. And again, we just mentioned wide receiver. That's another option. And then take a look at safety and corner depth. And you got number 2 and 3 safeties still on the board. They did a good job of adding Kobe Bryant, but Cam Lewis cannot be expected to be a long-term answer. So this would be a really good spot for the Browns. For the Bears. Add another safety. Add either Thieneman or Warren. Again, they run a 4-3, so they've got a couple of those edge guys that also fit, the ones I mentioned. I think they got to pay attention to defense. I know it might be tempting for someone like Ben Johnson to want to add another receiver here, but you got to get that defense straightened out. And because you look at the defense the way it is, and they added players in free agency, but in reality, they only have 2 players that could be considered difference makers, Bryant and Bush. All right. And neither of them are like these 5-year players, meaning Bush just broke out last year. He's had a good couple of years, but last year was his big breakout. And Kobe Bryant has steadily gotten better each year. And they're solid players too. We're not talking about elite level players. So they need more talent on defense. So I think they have, and there's a lot of those players available here. I mean, the Bears could trade down if they, I'm sure they want to, but they haven't. They've made the pick. They're high-fiving like every room does after a draft. Boy, these draft rooms are getting bigger and bigger. Look at this. There's like 30 people in that room. I'm going to go with, let's see. Out of all the players I mentioned, I'll go with Howell. This is 25. What do I have here in my market? I only got one guy left in my market. That's Parker. Because I had Concepcion here and Mesidor. All right, here we go.
Yeah, McNeil, Warren, and Thieneman.
Here's Roger Goodell.
With the 25th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Dylan Thieneman, defensive back, Oregon.
You know, this is the 3rd time I have put the volume on and they have uttered the names of the players or the position that was going to get drafted. Do they really think that they're being smart here? Like they're fooling us? Hey man, we told you. We said quarterback before the Rams, and boom, quarterback. And then we said the safety's names just before, and it was safety. And we said what was just the wide receiver? We said Concepcion just before, and it was Concepcion. Shut the fuck up. Okay, I want to hear what the commissioner says. I don't need you telling us who the pick is going to be before the pick is announced. Because you're not fooling anybody. Because it's easy to tell if you're there who's getting picked a few seconds before the pick. You know what's going on. These players are the offices, the rooms, they're calling the kids. You got about a good minute or two actually before the pick is made. That if you're there and you're dialed in, you know who the pick's going to be. Next time I'm going to ESPN. Okay, so the Bears make out with Dylan Thieneman. A lot of people thought Thieneman could go in the top 15. Instead, he winds up going 25. This is a difference maker. This is a very good player. Excellent pick for the Chicago Bears. You know, that secondary was banged up last year. All the corners got banged up, but they're a good corner group. And now you put Bryant along with Thieneman, And you've got a nice group of 5 players, good young group. They're not too young. They're just they're in the prime. They're in their young prime. They still got to get some edge rush help. But this is excellent value at 25. Good pick for the Bears. Next up, we've got Houston. And boy, this Houston team can go anywhere with this pick. Nobody knows where Houston's going. Of course, they'll know. They'll let us know just before the pick. But let's see. Who do I have in my market for 26 that's still left? Wait a second. Houston's at 26. How did Houston get to 26? Was there a trade? Let's see here. Guess there must have been a trade. Houston, yep, with Buffalo. All right, so we got our third trade. Houston and Buffalo. All right, so let's see. I had Houston going on the market. Players I had left, I had McDonald, Stowers, Woods, and Pregnon for Houston. Looking at what the Texans probably look, offensive line. We all got to be looking at offensive line. If they look, there is still Caleb Lomu available. Maybe that's why Houston. Look, there's not many players you would move up to get, but Caleb Lomu is definitely one of those players. I would think.
Let's see what they do now.
With the 26th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select Keelan Rutledge, guard, Georgia Tech.
And now we have another surprise. This is exactly why we say every year when you get down to this point, when you get down to the mid-20s of the draft, just like we just said with the Lawrence, with Dallas, this is where kids come from that are projected to go second. And again, like Lawrence, Ourlads had as a third. But keep in mind, Lawrence really did start to move up. See, Ourlads puts all of their scouting reports together. And by the time it's all in this book and ready to print, it's at least about a good several weeks before they come out. And really late, Lawrence started to get a lot of buzz. And so that's why I don't think it was a big surprise that Lawrence, like where Ourlads had Lawrence, it probably would have even moved him up a little bit more. Oh, we have another trade. Is this another trade? Miami? All right, let's get to this. So San Francisco and Miami have made a trade. Okay, and this is what we talked about. Where were they? We talked about as we got later into the draft that you were going to see more trades because of this exact reason. That and remember, what did we also say? That they're not going to be the trades of their 5 or 10 spots difference. It's going to be we got to get with a couple of spots. We got to move up a couple. And it's not going to be a big move, but there's a guy we like and we want to get him. So we're willing to make the move because we're not going to make a big move in this draft, but there are going to be a lot of little moves. We've already seen Dallas make a one-step move a little earlier, but now we're seeing 2-step moves. Now another one-step move, 2-step moves. So this is going to happen a lot now. We're going to see this. All right. So Houston, Buffalo, we still got to get that one. And again, so they go with the guard from Georgia Tech. which we did not. Nobody had in the first round, but none of these are surprises now. None of them. Where did Ourlads have this kid Rutledge? Let's see. Where is he? There he is. They had him about number probably 75, 80. We knew they would be looking at offensive line. That was an obvious one. But that's why we were thinking about players like Pregnon. Instead, they've got their own guard that they like, and that's Rutledge. So Rutledge it is. I'm a little bit surprised, though, that they would trade up to get him. That's all. I mean, did you really need to trade up a couple of spots to get Rutledge? And this is not as good as a job as Caserio has done. He's done a good job. Not a great job, but a good job. The fact is he really hasn't done a good job drafting offensive linemen. So I think finally he had a good one in nursery. Finally. But for the most part, most of his, I mean, just take a look at the depth chart here. I mean, he spent a second-round draft pick on Fisher, and he's not a starter at this point. And do you see, besides Ursary, do you see any other homegrown offensive lineman? No, it's Fisher and Patterson. And the other one is Ursary that hit. But they got the lineman they liked, and to trade a draft pick for him, then they really must have liked him and thought there was a big difference between him and some of the others. Okay, Miami's next. And we really have to think about the secondary for Miami. It's the offensive line and it's the secondary. Those are the, I mean, they also could use another edge rusher, but they could use a whole of a lot. I mean, they really can. There's a lot that Miami needs. Okay, pick is in. Okay, so they've got their offensive linemen. Let's see if they'll go after the secondary now.
Could it be a receiver?
Oh, it's a receiver now.
With the 27th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Chris Johnson, defensive back.
It is
San
a
Diego
defensive
State.
back.
So they go.
Yeah, so it's Rich Eisen's not the guy that does it.
Chris Johnson,
It's the other guy.
San Diego State.
I took a very physical.
Anyway, yeah, it had to be secondary as one of the likely choices. The secondary is just not very good in Miami. There is just openings all over the place. And Chris Johnson is looked at as one of those definitely next in line corners. It was Hood. It was Johnson. Now McCoy is slipping. And I would think it's possible if he keeps slipping. I don't know if he'll slip past. I think Hood probably next. Let me see. Let me see here. Okay. So, yeah, Terrell's also dealing with an injury situation. So I think you got Hood. Now, the question then becomes, how high are you willing to draft D'Angelo Pons? And we talked about Pons a few times this week. I talked about, he was one of my sleepers based on his size. John yesterday talked about him being maybe even a potential late first round draft pick, even though he has a small stature. That's how good this kid is. So will Colton Hood and D'Angelo Pons get drafted ahead of McCoy and Terrell at corner? And we got another trade. The trades just keep on coming. This is what we wanted to see. So now the Patriots trade up. Okay. Well, the Patriots, we were looking at corner. Excuse me. We were looking at defensive line. We were looking at Woods, Hunter up front. We were looking pass rusher, like edge. We talked about Young. If you want a corner, that's definitely possible. Hood, or do you go after McCoy? When is someone going after McCoy? And we also have Stowers here. Oh, here we go.
It up with this with the Bills, who just moved down twice. So the Patriots with their first pick, the AFC champion Patriots on the clock. No more.
With the 28th pick in the 2026
It'll be
NFL
McDonald.
Draft, the New England Patriots select Caleb Lomu.
Oh, they go after Lomu. Totally forgot about Lomu.
So they're all going
There you
now.
go.
Every tackle,
Yep, we talked
interior
about
offensive
tackle
line
with the
and top
Patriots.
50 are off the board.
That they would be looking at somebody to replace Morgan Moses. And we actually thought at the time, because we thought he was still going to be available, we were talking more about the kid from Arizona State, Yanator. But Lomu ends up being available this late. And so New England does a really good job of saying, wait a second, this guy has dropped enough and we got to go and get him. So, especially with Kansas City hanging around here. And there's a lot of talk about the Chiefs looking for that tackle. So I think that's what the Patriots did. I think the Patriots wanted to get ahead of the Chiefs. And they made the move for Lomu. Okay, you've got Morgan Moses here. And you don't want to be, even this year, you want an insurance policy in case something happens to Moses this year, the older he gets. And now they've got a player. Okay. A lot of trading going on, just as we suspected. A couple of spots here and there at the end of the first round. And now we have 4 more picks. The Chiefs, the Niners, the Bills, and the Seahawks. So here come the Chiefs, who have their corner. And we were looking at offensive tackle for the Chiefs as well. I'll give you some spots that we were looking at with the Chiefs. Okay, so Keldrick Falk. Lee Hunter. Peter Woods. Those are players to keep an eye on for the Chiefs. The offensive tackles are really getting a little bit thinned out now. There's not many left before you have another gap. And then you have, I think the players I mentioned, those would be the ones that I would think of. Let me see who's available. Let's see who's available. Okay, the best offensive tackle available. Oh, it's a drop. Oh, we're in drop territory now. It would be a big surprise to see a tackle taken now. Yeah, that's it. That would be a reach. So we can't go tackle. So let's just stick with the players that we mentioned. Keldrick Falk, Lee Hunter, and Peter Woods. Let's see if there's anybody else that pops out. Like who would be considered still available? Well, Falk is the one that's, but look, they could go, you know what? Even though you got Delane, why not take a chance on McCoy now, right? Just imagine if McCoy works out and you got McCoy and Delane in the same draft. You got the top 2 corners in the draft. How about that? So you got Terrell, McCoy. Those are the injured guys. What if they, even though it was Concepcion, I don't think they'd go Boston. I don't think they're looking for a bigger guy. Omar Cooper's a possibility. take a look at that depth chart here. Yeah, I think some of those names we've already talked about. Let's see. You know what? I guess if they really feel, how about Warren? How about McNeil Warren? You know, you lost some players in that secondary, and then you go into the draft and you come out of it with Delane and Warren. That'd be sweet. And then coming up after the Chiefs, did the Jets move up? The Jets moved up. Wow. Okay. The Jets with 3 first-round draft picks. The Jets traded with, I don't even know who they traded with now. I'm these teams have. I knew there were going to be a lot of trades late in the draft with the, like we just see, the 2 spots, 1 spot, 3 spots. I didn't think of this many. All right, the Chiefs are coming up. I mean, it's like every pick we see a trade. This is the fun part, right? That Veets talked about.
Here's the Chiefs' second pick of the night to go.
I don't want to hear him.
For Delane.
With the 29th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Peter Woods, defensive tackle, Clemson.
Okay. So there you go. That was one of the players that we mentioned, and it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. There you go. So Chris Jones gets a really talented player to work alongside of him. And the Chiefs looked at that board. I'm a little bit surprised Falk is still out there, but maybe not. You know, we've been saying all along that the thing with Falk is he doesn't put up enough sacks. Let's just put it that way. He's a pressure guy without the sacks. And that's been hurting him. And plus, he's 276, I believe. And yet, a lot of people do think he's a 5 tech. And then you wonder if that's a tweener. So the Jets are up. So what do the Jets need? I didn't think the Jets would be up here again. So they've got their tight end. They need a wide receiver. How about Boston? Oh, Boston would be perfect. Jet fans would be ecstatic if they could get Boston and Sadiq in the same draft. But they could also go corner. I could definitely see corner. I wouldn't be surprised if they went with an inside linebacker. I'd love to get Rodriguez. And considering some of the players that have been drafted already, I don't think this is a reach for Rodriguez. So I'd go Rodriguez. I think you have to be thinking about, again, corner. Is it McCoy? Is it Hood? Is it one of those guys? I mean, McNeil Warren is still available. Is he too good of a prospect to not go after in that secondary? But I think Boston. I mean, Cooper could be the other guy. I mean, there was a lot of talk about Cooper with their second pick, and I remember mentioning to people who have talked about that's just too high. If you're going to pick Cooper, then you trade down to get Cooper. Well, this is where they are now. If you want to take a player like Cooper, you get him here. So I think Cooper, Boston, Rodriguez, and a corner. But I don't think you trade up for Rodriguez. You probably don't trade up for a corner unless it's McCoy. So I'm going to go wide receiver. I'm going to go Boston or Cooper.
Well, Jack Andrews is helping me out.
Can he make me right?
All right, quiet down. I want to hear I'm not going to listen to these bozos screw it up.
With the 30th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver, Indiana.
You don't ask for a lot, Rich, right?
You were right. You had him taking him 16.
See? Yeah, you had him taking him 16. Yeah, well, you were wrong because, as I said, 16 was way too high to take Omar Cooper. So if you wanted Cooper, you either trade down or you make the smart move and you trade up and you get him. You don't get him at 16. That would have been silly. So there you go. So I know there were a lot of Jet fans that, like I said, that would have been a little bit upset that they didn't get Lemon. But hey, we got Sadiq. So that's okay. We're happy. And now all of a sudden you trade back up and you've got yourself Cooper, who some people thought could have gone 16. Now, the only thing that sucks about this for Jet fans, and it's very small, is we don't get to wait all day tomorrow with the first pick of the second round. But that's okay because now the Jets have a wide receiver, they have a tight end, and of course they have a pass rusher. And this is why I think when you take a look at the 3 players the Jets drafted, you can see why I'm real happy about the direction of the franchise. I'm happy about Darren Muji. He's a very good general manager. The teamwork that with Aaron Glenn is really, really good. And this is just the beginning. Okay. Now comes Tennessee comes up now. How did Tennessee get here? Boy, if there are a lot of these trades now, I can't imagine what we're going to be doing tomorrow. All right, let's get into it. The Titans. I got to get into this fast. Hold on. Where am I? Get this out of the way. What am I doing? No. Where's the Titans? Okay. What do the Titans need? Titans need edge rusher help. They need an interior offensive lineman. This is fine here. They can use another left tackle, a middle linebacker. Stowers would be nice here. They need a McCoy. Again, a corner. They need a lot of help. Safety. McNeil Warren. They can go all over the place here. Right here. Because Amani Hooker, so McNeil Warren. You can go inside linebacker right here. Team up with Gray. I don't think at this point you're going to go with edge. I don't think there's anyone. You could go with Young, Parker. There are a couple players out there you could go with. I'll go Parker. You could go Falk too. You got Falk, you got Parker. And then, again, you could go Stowers if you don't think Helm is a number 1. And I think Stowers is going to be a much better tight end than Helm. So imagine you now go with Tate and Stowers for Cam Ward. That might be what I would do here. And you do have to find somebody to eventually get rid of Dan Moore. But like I said, I think we've passed that point. There's nobody here now. You've missed the boat on the left tackles. They're all gone. So, yeah. You want to go Stowers? Let's go Stowers. That would be nice.
And then we'll be wrapping up our first night here from Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, before the Titans pick, congratulations, you set a record for the first night of the draft. 320,000 people here tonight. Congratulations, Pittsburgh. Awesome. With the 31st pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Keldrick Falk, defensive end, Auburn.
Okay. And that was pick number 31. Now we have the final pick, unless there's another trade. And this is funny because if you would have told me there were like 6 trades or 5 trades in the last 7 picks, I would have been like, definitely Seattle. Because Seattle only has 5 picks. They would definitely trade down. And they're still there, meaning they're going to pick. So they must like somebody. All right. Who could it be? Well, I think you got to look at Boston at wide receiver. Then we're going to look inside at guard. You got Basanis, you got Pregnon. You could also look at Zion Young. I think that's another one. Let's see. Who would be considered? Let's see. Here we go. All right, let me take a look at the board. Yeah, they could use a corner. Well, now this is a team that could take a chance. When you win the Super Bowl, you could take chances with players like Jamon McCoy. So Jamon McCoy would be really nice. You could also go with McNeil Warren because you lost Bryant. I'd probably go McNeil Warren here. That would be my pick. Cassius Howell's another one that makes a lot of sense here. So besides the players I mentioned, I put Cassius Howell and McNeil Warren at the top. And let's see, who would we go with? Who are we going to go with? We're going to go with McNeil Warren. Yeah, let's go with McNeil Warren. That'll be the pick. This guy's finally coming out. You guys getting married? Okay, so here we go. Seattle. It doesn't say the pick is in, though. Oh, he's being emotional with the Godfather. Okay. So San Francisco right now has the first pick tomorrow. They were the ones, I guess, that obviously made the trade with the Jets. But it's going to be crazy going over all these trades that just happened. I got to figure out a better way to, because tomorrow is going to be 2 rounds and they're going to be crazy trades like this. So we got to figure out a better way to be on top of this. That's what I'll have all day to do. And I want to remind everybody about this, the Ourlads draft guide. Don't forget to get it if you already haven't. The PDF version is available. You can get it right now. Or you go to the description area of this video. You click on the link. You order the PDF, and all the scouting reports are right there for you to check out all these players that were drafted. You can mix and match, obviously, with the teams that they're on right now. And then you got the rest of the weekend of players to get picked. You got a lot of time to work in that PDF. And you can even order the hard copy as well, and just make sure you wait for that hard copy to get in the mail. The PDF will definitely hold you until then. We'll be on the air tomorrow at 7. So again, it will start an hour early tomorrow. Let's see. And just going over some stuff here. Okay. And then also we'll take a look at the recap next week. We already have an interview scheduled with Kevin Knight from the Falcoholic on Friday. We have an interview with our San Francisco guest, Kyle Madsen from the Niners Wire. That's going to be on Tuesday. So we've got a guest already on Tuesday, a guest already on Friday. And they're going to keep coming around. I mean, now all of my attention goes right back instead of previewing or talking about the off to free agency, previewing the draft. Now I'm contacting all of my guys about, hey, let's recap the draft. Let's recap the offseason because the heavy lifting is done in the offseason right now. Sure, we'll see some deals made between now and opening day. But for the most part, those are the same types of deals that can get done at any time during the year. But the meat of the rosters are all set now. We're on the NFL once we get through this weekend. And so that's why I'm going to start putting these interviews together. And let us know what you think, what you want, anything at all that we could do to make this show better. We're always open to suggestions. We'll let you know what we can do, what we can't do. Again, I'm going to go with McNeil Warren here. I think he's going to introduce someone.
26 NFL Draft. We're proud to continue.
Yeah, this guy's pretty excited.
This World Wish Month.
He must be a Seattle fan there because he's carrying a Seattle card. And I guess I'd be just like him. I won a Super Bowl, and I'm about to imagine that if he's a Seattle fan and his team won a Super Bowl, and he's going to go ahead and announce the first pick of the draft of the Seattle Seahawks, the Super Bowl team.
This is a wish come true for Dylan and a chance to take part in one of the most exciting moments in our league. Dylan, when you're ready, stage is yours.
What's going on with Pittsburgh?
All right, dude. Just chill.
Yeah. I'm so excited to be here to represent the 12s. Oh, and the reigning Super Bowl champion, Seattle! And with that, with the 32nd pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Jadarian Price.
There it is.
Notre Dame.
Oh, they did go running back.
It just fits.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not expect that. I did not expect that. We all knew Seattle needed a running back. That was obvious. But in the first round, they went with Jeremiah Love's running back partner. Wow. Good player. Look, we had no idea who that second running back was going to be. We all knew Seattle needed a running back, but hey, you know what? He ain't Kenneth Walker. I'll tell you that much, but he's a good player. So they got the guy they wanted. That's why we were surprised they did not trade down. That they went after the one position on their depth chart that was the obvious need. Right here. Because we're not fooled by Emmanuel Wilson being the co-running back with Zach Charbonnet. Okay. So they talked this up, even Holani, and that was just all phony. We just knew they were going to pick a running back at some point. And they decided to go after it with their first pick. So now they got a Price Charbonnet combo. And let's see. What are the good traits about Price? Let's see. What sticks out about Price the most? Where are we? Here we go. Well, big, fast, physical. We know that. He also had a kick return touchdown against UCLA last year. So he can add to that. I don't think that's where you want to put him, but you already have a superstar kick returner. He did have an Achilles injury in 2022, but since then, he's been just fine. I mean, he's the type of big, physical, yards after contact runner you're looking for. So he's a different running back than what they have. So Kenneth Walker is like a speed guy. Charbonnet is Charbonnet is like, he can kind of do, I wouldn't pigeonhole Charbonnet into anything. That's why Charbonnet is a really good running back. He's always been a good running back because he's one of those guys that was just built well. He could break tackles. He has some speed. He can do it in the passing game. There's a lot to like about Zach Charbonnet, but, not really like an elite trait, but a lot of good traits. Price, he gives you some elite traits. He gives you that big physical game, yards at the contact. He is just you give it to him and he's just going after it, man. He's going between the tackles. He's going to try to fuck you up if he can. He did have some fumbles last year. All right. So for a big back, you obviously want to use him down at the goal line, but until you can trust him to do that, remember, Charbonnet, that's the one thing that irritated the hell out of me. I have Kenneth Walker on my dynasty team, which of course I'm ecstatic now that he's on the Chiefs. But the thing that just drove me nuts is the amount of times they would let Charbonnet be the guy at the goal line. They'd be the guy towards the end, that part of the end zone inside the 20 and all that nonsense. And yeah, I mean, I understood it a little bit. Charbonnet was a bigger bodied runner. But again, Jadarius Price is more of Jadarian Price is more of the physical between the tackles. I'll give you that yard or two if you need it. Running back, not Charbonnet. I would have. So why? I just didn't understand it. It irritated me the whole year. You've got, which would turn out to be an MVP Super Bowl running back. And what you're doing is you're taking the ball out of his hands for Zach Charbonnet. So, but Charbonnet is a good running back. He's not Kenneth Walker. But now they've got two guys. So now you got a guy like Price who can wear you down, and also Charbonnet, who also can bring a physical game to it. Not as much as Price, but good enough. That's going to be a very interesting backfield there. But keep in mind, Price is not going to be a factor in the passing game at all. So, you're not going to get good pass protection from him. You're not going to get receiving from him, which makes things interesting because I do wonder now, do they use Price the same way they used Walker? Meaning, does Price start? That could happen. You could see Price starting, and then Charbonnet just does exactly what he did last year. He comes in. He's the one that works inside the 20s. He'll work in the passing game. That we could see. So anyway, a solid pick for Seattle, and that wraps it up. My voice is gone, and tomorrow I get an extra hour, so I got to really figure that out. Okay, so what we'll do tomorrow is we'll start off by going over what we liked and did not like about the first round. The only team, there's two teams that I would put for a negative side, and that would be Washington and Minnesota. And again, it doesn't mean that those players are not good players. It's not what I mean. Those are good players. It just means I just don't like what they did, what they could have done. So that's, but there's others. There was so many trades at the end of that round. My head was dizzy. So I'll put that together. We'll go over it tomorrow. And then we will go over the second and third round of the NFL draft. And it's going to be even faster. So I don't know about, and they also put in more of those guest speakers. Oh, especially on Saturday, they just go wall to wall guest speakers. But with a lot less time, we might have a less interaction with the volume and the picks, and just try to take our time and go over everything a little bit more like that. But I don't know. I'm just, my head is, it's 11:15. I've been on the air for over 3 hours. And as you can tell, I'm losing my voice. So I'm out of here. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share. And again, all that stuff is really important. I don't want to overlook that. I know I should probably talk more about that earlier in these shows, but for us to keep plugging along here and providing all this additional content on the channel, this is all we look for from our viewers. If you want to see us succeed and you want to get back to our program, our network, then hit that like button for sure. And because once you've subscribed, liking every video that you see is a no-brainer and it helps us tremendously. So thanks for tuning in. I'll see everybody tomorrow. And again, I look forward to getting a head start early. And maybe even we might even start the show early tomorrow, because if we start the show and go right to picks, then I'm not going to have enough time to go over some of the things that I'd like to go over. So we might just start the show at 6:30 tomorrow. So keep that in mind. I'll see everybody tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you had a great day one draft.